What's up guys, this is your favorite fanfic YouTuber, the Fanfic Majesty, and welcome to another amazing video. You can follow me on Patreon for exclusive stories.
Great Voyage, I am the Sun. 1 GV. Chapter 1 Law's Pterodactyl Form. Few people on the sea know that there is actually a white sea area 10,000 meters above the sea. This is the white sea made of special sea clouds, the Sea of Clouds. And in a corner of this sea area, there is an island of the same white. The coast of one side of the island. Dulin stood on the shore with a melancholy face, in front of him was the rippling white ocean. He still looks quite young. About 10 years old or so. But that immature little face is unusually handsome, and every detail is impeccable. Just staring at him, even felt like staring at a god. That is a beauty that mortals cannot touch at all. He has soft gold hair and wears a slightly loose white robe. What's really amazing is that he has a pair of large white wings on his back, which are now folded together. And above the wings, behind Dulin's head, there is a ring of the same gold floating. It is still fluttering slightly, and one can find that it is a halo formed by flames. He is almost like an angel in the myth of Legendary. After a long time, Dulin raised his right hand. In the next moment, a brilliant gold flame burst out from his hand. Dulin was not surprised. At this moment, he sighed, is it really time traveling? A few minutes ago, he was lying on the bed playing a pirate-themed Krypton Gold mobile game. I just spent a huge amount of money to get a super initial account, but the phone accidentally hit my face. When I came back to my senses, I was already here. The whole person was dumbfounded. But it's not without good news, at least, he didn't come here naked. Panel. Dulin said softly. A screen of light that only he could see immediately unfolded in front of his eyes. Open black lens bracket name. Dulin close black lens bracket. Territory. None. Talent. Extreme strange power. King Kong is not bad. Flame manipulation. Speed transformation. Natural dominance. Immortal fighting spirit. Ability. Armament hockey. Observation hockey. Conqueror's hockey. The hierarchy is gone. Dulin sighed, the mall is gone. It's a pity, if you can directly Krypton Gold to become stronger, how about blowing up the whole world in no time? But the rest is not bad. Extreme strange power. From Kaido and Charlotte Linlin, you are born with the ultimate strength talent. King Kong is not bad. From Kaido, Charlotte Linlin and Jhin, your physical defense is unmatched, and you can adapt to various harsh environments. Flame manipulation. The Lunaria racial talent, you have the ability to create and manipulate flames at will. Speed conversion. Lunaria racial talent, when the flames behind the head are extinguished, the defense will be weakened, but the speed will be increased to the limit. Natural overlord. From Kaido, Charlotte Linlin and Monkey D. Luffy, you were born to be an overlord over others, born conquerors hockey awakened, hockey practice talent raised to the limit. Immortal fighting soul. From Kaido and Monkey D. Luffy, you have the most tenacious fighting spirit and the most incredible vitality, the more serious the injury, the higher the damage reduction. The stronger the fighting spirit, the more power you can explode beyond the limit. Only victory or death can stop you from fighting. Close black lens bracket. Looking at the lines of text on the panel, the panic in Dulin's heart due to the sudden time travel has gradually dissipated. The moment he crossed over, a system notification sounded in his mind. Only then did Dulin know that he crossed over with the panel of the Krypton Gold game he played before. The copycat game played before crossing supports DIY characters, and also provides various character templates. Dulin, who was not short of money, spent a lot of effort to come up with a superb number. Combining the talents of Kaido, Big Mom, Straw Hat, Jin's race, and Wang Luffy's blood lock, it should be considered good even among the Kryptonites. Then he crossed over, transmigrated to the character he DIY'd. Yes, Dulin's body at this time is exactly what he spent an hour pinching his face little by little, and spent an extra sum of money to modify the brown skin of the Lunaria tribe, black wings, and flames on the back of his head. The game character that finally took shape. The main thing is a surprise. In addition, he brought another thing. Dulin lifted up what he had been holding in his arms all the time. That is a very special fruit. The color is as brilliant as gold, the overall shape is spherical, and there are two patterns on both sides that look like closed wings. It also exudes a faint light, as bright as a solidified sun. The corners of Dulin's mouth gradually raised, you came with me too. That copycat mobile game focuses on Krypton Gold. Talents, equipment, skills, characters, as long as you charge money, you can Krypton anything. Not only pirate IP, but also other animation games, as long as players are willing to spend money, they will also arrange for you. For the sake of game experience, Dulin just bought a first-class initial account, which he now regrets very much. If you knew that you were going to travel, you must first fill up all the attributes and equipment, such as Sharingan Wood Style, Saiyan Blood, Dragon Ball Zanpakuto Hogyoku, you must first fill a warehouse. Fortunately, in addition to the initial character whose basic board is almost full, Dulin also spent a lot of money to build a devil fruit for himself. Dulin held up the fruit, with a smile on his exquisite little face. Zone, the bird fruit phantom beast, Law's pterodactyl form. A phantom beast species created with Pterosaur, one of the three phantom gods in Yu-Gi-Oh! A devil fruit with true god power. The real god of the sun. Most of the cost of building the initial account was spent on this fruit. Without any hesitation at all, Dulin opened his mouth wide and bit it directly. Taste was good as expected. Just kidding, Dulin has even spent a lot of money to get rid of all the defects of devil fruit. Is it difficult to add a little money to this fruit with a good taste? After eating the fruit in 2 bites, Dulin immediately noticed the changes in his body. The most intuitive is the improvement of physical strength. Dulin doesn't know how strong he is with the talent of Ant Kaido, but he can clearly feel that his power has become stronger the moment he eats the fruit. Panel. The panel unfolds, and changes have been made on it. Ability. Armament Hockey, Observation Hockey, Conqueror's Hockey, Winged Dragon Form. It has the ability of a winged dragon. While looking at the panel, Dulin raised his head, the white ocean stretched to the end of his sight, and the warm sea breeze was blowing towards him. This is really a very beautiful sight. But at this time, Dulin had no intention of admiring it at all. Now, let's test the ability. In the next moment, the brilliant gold light bloomed, and Dulin turned into a golden light and flew over the sky. The golden light began to expand, and then turned into light spots all over the sky and scattered in all directions like rain. And after the light spots splashed, what remained in the air was a huge golden bird, or flying dragon. Chapter 2 The Power of God. Enel. The whole body seems to be made of gold, full of cold and hot metal feeling. The wide golden wings have a wingspan of nearly 30 meters just by spreading them out, just floating quietly in the sky, as if covering the sky and blocking out the sun. There is a golden ring connected on the arms and shoulders, which is condensed by flames and dotted with flame patterns. And on the forehead of the flying dragon, there is a blue gem dotted, which looks extremely sacred. If someone was present at this time, I'm afraid they would kneel down involuntarily just by witnessing this scene. This is not a person with abilities, but a god. The golden divine bird looks like a god. The flying dragon fluttered its wings, but its huge body moved at an astonishing speed. It flew into the sky in the blink of an eye, flying wantonly. Golden flames gushed out from his body, brilliant and gorgeous, as if the sun was shining through the sky. It is the basic fighting form, with the ability to release, manipulate, absorb, and shape flames. After that, the golden bird began to deform. The body curled up and the wings closed, turning into a golden sphere. Ball shape, the appearance of a god resting. Defensive form, with ultimate's defensive power and absolute resistance to abnormal states, can release healing flames, thereby quickly recovering physical strength and injuries. At the same time, exposure to sunlight strengthens the body. And then, the last. The flame instantly ignited the entire golden sphere. Amidst the brilliant flames, the gods spread their wings. He has turned into a flying bird made of flames. The bright yellow and red flames have the power to burn everything. Even though he was already at a high altitude, the scorching temperature made by Baihai start to evaporate. God's Phoenix, the appearance of God's anger. Extremely burn physical strength, immune to all damage, and turn into a bird of fire that can burn out its soul. 1 fruit, 3 forms. What is krypton gold? This is called krypton gold. This is still the basic ability of this fruit. After it completes the awakening, Dulin will truly gain the power that can be called a god. If that's the case, there's nothing to be afraid of. Dulin thought so. Then he returned to his spherical form again, with soft yellow flames covering his whole body. The phoenix is too exaggerated for physical exertion. At this time, I can probably only attack once and exhaust my energy. Dulin deeply hated himself for pursuing the restoration of animation effects so much. Directly changing the phoenix to a resident effect is not invincible. But fortunately, the ball form can quickly restore physical strength. The perpetual motion machine belongs to Yes. After turning into a ball and hanging in the sky for a while to recover some strength, Dulin's huge body began to shrink. The animal form has already been experienced, and the next step is of course the human beast form. Dulin turned into a child again. It's just that his body was covered with a layer of gold armor. Well, he also modified the human beast form by the way. After all, it would be ugly to become a birdman. Pterodactyl was originally constructed like metal. Therefore, Dulin's human beast form directly refers to the holy clothes mode of the Golden Saint. It's just a golden armor that covers the whole body, and the helmet is also fully enclosed. There are 2 pairs of wide golden wings on the back, one pair is his own wings, and the other pair is the wings of the pterodactyl transformed. At the back of the waist, a slender golden tail stretched out. Behind the shoulders, the circle of flames is the same as before. It is an extremely mighty and noble golden knight. It's as if a god came to the world. Too handsome. Dulin fluttered his wings behind his back, and his body flew into the sky. Not fast enough, he murmured softly. Then, the ring of flames at the back of the head disappeared, and the talent of the Lunalia clan burst out. In the next instant, Dulin was already flashing in the sky like a shooting star, which was hard to be recognized by the naked eye at such a high speed. Dulin flew into the sky for a while, and plunged into the bye-bye sea for a while. The limitations of the capable person disappeared on him. After a while, he finally had enough. Disarm abilities landed back on the shore. Okay, let's think about it next. Sitting on the shore, Dulin soaked his feet in the rippling white sea, looked at the white sea, and murmured to himself, what should I do in the future? All I know now is that I'm on Sky Island. The specific Sky Island and the specific time are unknown. You have to figure these things out first. Dulin thought so. Panel. Opening the panel again, Dulin focused on a column on the panel. Territory. None. Did you bring the main task too? Dulin whispered to himself. In that Krypton Gold game, players can choose their own faction. Different factions have different main missions. For example, the pirate is of course to become the One Piece, the marine is to end the era of great pirates, and the revolutionary army is to overthrow the world government. But Dulin did not choose any of the camps above. He chose a relatively special conqueror camp. The main task is also very simple, just to conquer the world. Generally speaking, as long as the task is advanced to a stage, you can get a reward. The reward is generally a treasure chest that can open random rewards. This is also the only benefit of this Krypton Gold game. At the moment when you can't Krypton Gold, you can only do the task, right? After all, in the game promotion, it is said that after completing the main mission, you can start an adventure in a brand new world. The corners of Dulin's mouth gradually curled up. Then go conquer the world. Before time travel, he had a lawless personality. Now that he has time travel and obtained cheats, of course he wants to live his life recklessly. Next, explore the island. Since you want to conquer, start here. Dulin thought so. When I flew into the sky just now, I had a rough look at the topography of the island. There is a town in the center of the island. Vibrating its wings and flying into the sky, it took only a few minutes, and the town appeared in front of Dulin's eyes. The size of the town should be considered not small, about the same as a small county town in the previous life. The houses are all white, and should be more qualified to be called a white town than Mariajoy. Dulin didn't have any scruples, and flew directly into the city from above, looking down at the small city from a height. The houses are generally low, but there are quite a lot of streets. The inhabitants of the towns below all had wings like Durin's. It's just that their wings are much smaller, and it's almost impossible to use them to fly, let alone the flames behind their heads. They looked up at Dulin in the sky in amazement, guessing his identity. Sure enough, it is Sky Island. Dulin thought so. He simply landed lightly on the streets of the town. The surrounding residents with small wings looked at him in astonishment. You can also hear their discussions. Did he fly over? The wings are huge. What's that ring on the back of his head? However, it's so cute. No, or rather, it's so handsome. Yeah, whose child is this? If only I had such a child. Dulin's only reaction to the discussion around him was, I can understand it. That's right, since the panels are brought over, it would be too stupid for the prophecy module not to be loaded yet. As for the rest, he didn't care. Dulin was just looking around in this not-so-busy street full of curiosity. The buildings of Sky Island are all built with strange clouds called island clouds. Although they are clouds, they have entities, similar to soil and rocks. So of course, everywhere is a piece of white. Very unique. The various shops along the more distinctive streets sell mostly shell products in addition to various ingredients. Goods are scarce. No wonder, Sky Island is indeed quite scarce. Dulin wandered the streets leisurely, attracting a lot of attention no matter where he went. Well, where to start? Or just transform into a little sun god to shock the people on this island. Boom. Suddenly, there was an explosion behind the row of houses ahead. Have fun. Dulin raised his eyebrows, fluttered his wings, and flew towards that side amidst the astonished eyes of the people around him. In the blink of an eye he landed on top of the house ahead. And in the street below, a conflict is erupting. A group of men in uniform surrounded a teenager. Enel, UB**********D, how dare you act so recklessly? One of the uniformed men yelled. Dulin was slightly taken aback. Enel, Chapter 3 I have come to rule the sky. Dulin looked down upon the teenagers on the street below. He was bare-chested, with messy light blonde hair and no wings behind him. The most striking thing was his chest-length earlobes. Indeed, Enel was right. He looked a little older than himself. This body was 10 years old, so Enel was 12 or 13 years old at most. Remember that Enel and the red hair seem to be the same age, that is to say, the timeline is at least 20 years before the beginning of the plot. It's so early. Roger doesn't even seem to be the One Piece yet. But it's not bad. This era is equally magnificent. While Dulin was thinking, Enel below was laughing, yeah ha ha ha. As long as Lousy doesn't become the god of Burka for a day, this kind of destruction will continue. God of Burka, the corners of Dulin's mouth raised. If I remember correctly, you destroyed this island with your own hands. UB***********D. With our god's guard here, don't try to act recklessly. The man who spoke just now roared in grief and anger, swung the strange blade in his hand and slashed towards Enel. He cut Enel in half with a single blow of his sword. But, yeah ha 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 ha, it's meaningless. How can a mortal's attack hurt a god? With a loud laugh, Enel's broken body turned into lightning and passed directly through the man's body. Amidst the screams, thunder condensed into Enel's body again, but the man who launched the attack was already covered in charred black, breathing white smoke and fell down. Dulin raised his eyebrows slightly. Do you already have the ability of Thunder Fruit at this time? Yeah ha 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 ha, do you realize how stupid you are? Enel condensed his body again and laughed wildly. This is the fate of disobeying the gods. Enel, the people on the street below, probably this army, the gods' guard were roaring at the top of their lungs. They attacked Enel almost frantically. But pointless. For those who don't know hockey, Enel who owns Logia Thunder Fruit is indeed a godlike existence. Neither blade nor gun could hurt Enel at all. Can only be incompetent and furious. Yeah ha ha ha. Enel laughed so wildly that he didn't even move. He was obviously a boy of 12 or 13 years old, but what was revealed on his face at this moment was undisguised malice and arrogance. Stop trying to resist, Laozi will rule the country sooner or later. Enel's face became distorted due to wild laughter. Why don't you just kneel down obediently now? Don't even think about it. A man roared, God of Burka, there is only one. That is the Lord. Although he said so, there was some fear in his heart. Enel, this deformed child who was stared at by everyone and doesn't even have wings, unexpectedly gained the power to manipulate thunder not long ago. Although the power is not so terrible, but he can actually become a thunderbolt himself. There is no way to hurt him at all. After that, the guy began to vent his anger all these years wantonly on the island. He also said that he would become a god who ruled over all people. Even Shendu was hurt by him. What's even more frightening is that Enel is still young. If he grows up, will his strength become stronger? At that time, who else can resist him? Enel's eyes turned cold instantly. Then, you have no reason to belong to Laozi's command. He raised his right hand, and his right wrist had turned into lightning. Excuse me, can I interject? But at this moment, a voice suddenly came from above. Enel and the members of the God's Guard looked up at the same time. Then, they froze at the same time. Burka is located high above the outside, and above it is a clear blue sky, and the bright sun shines unobstructed. And in the bright sunlight, a figure floated above the sky. He flapped his wings slowly, and the sun shone from his back, making him seem to be radiant. Even with the backlight, you can see his divine face clearly. God, a member of the God's Guard couldn't help exclaiming. He is as sacred and solemn as a god. Wait, he's flying. Enel's face Jonan couldn't help showing a look of astonishment. The wings of the Burka should not be able to fly at all. Dulin flapped his wings and hovered in the sky, looking down at the two people below, with a gentle smile on his immature but extremely handsome face. I heard you guys were talking about a very interesting topic, so I couldn't help but chime in. He smiled and said, the so-called god of Burka refers to the ruler of this island, right? Who are you? Enel frowned, and he had instantly turned into lightning and appeared on the roof on one side. As a man who claims to be a god, he doesn't like people standing on his head. Your name is Enel, right? Hello, and everyone from God's Guard. Dulin nodded kindly towards him, then looked at the God's Guards on the street below, and he said gently, my name is Dulin, although it's a bit presumptuous, but please remember this name. Because, this is the name of the next god of Sky Island. Next, I will rule the sky. The smile on Dulin's face was hearty. There is no need for strategic planning, no need for caution. As long as you want to do it, then you can do it, and finally get a successful result. It's that simple. It's not that Dulin didn't fail to notice that after possessing the talent called Natural Overlord, his personality has been somewhat deflected. But it doesn't matter, it's not bad. Quiet. The God's Guard were silent. They were even dumbfounded subconsciously. What happened? After Enel, there was a second person who said he wanted to become a god. Are all kids these days crazy? Yeah, ha ha ha. Kid, how dare you say that? Enel laughed wildly. It is Laozi who will become a god and rule this island. Do you want to compete with Laozi? Enel considers himself a god. All the sufferings before this life are just the tempering before becoming a god. And now, I have mastered the power that truly belongs to the gods. No one can be above himself. I am the man who wants to become a god. That's right. Dulin nodded slightly. That's a pity. Enel smiled cruelly. His narrow eyes were full of malice. Laozi, you don't like competitors. Oh, Dulin was still smiling. So, what are you going to do? The so-called tolerance should mean that the other party is not worth mentioning, right? There is no feeling of anger at all. Go to hell. In the flash of lightning, Enel's figure appeared in front of Dulin. Under the horrified gazes of the God's Guards below, the arms that flashed with thunder pressed towards Dulin. God's punishment. The thunder turned into a beam of light, swallowing Dulin's entire upper body in an instant. Chapter 4 When the Gods Come. Yeah ha ha ha. Enel was laughing wantonly. He enjoys this feeling very much. This feeling of wanton plundering others. Wealth, health, family, and even life. Only in this way can he feel that he has stood on top of others. This is God, standing in the clouds, give and take. A strange pleasure exploded in Enel's chest, and he felt a numbness stretching from his spine all the way to his scalp. This is power. Is it that funny? A flat and gentle voice sounded. What? Enel's laughter stopped abruptly. The jumping lightning gradually dissipated. Appearing in front of Enel's eyes was Dulin, whose clothes were not stained at all. The smile on his face was still gentle, and Dulin's voice was soft. As you said, disobedience to the gods is a stupid act, but this time, I forgive you. This island, and all the people on it, are my property from today onwards, and so are you, so I forgive you. Now that you have decided to conquer the world, you should first correct your mentality. It's not good to be too petty. Enel was instantly enraged. Not long after he acquired the ability, he already called himself a god, so how could he allow someone to talk nonsense in front of him? Dazzling thunder jumped on Enel's body in an instant, and he was about to launch a lightning strike with all his strength. But, it's enough to be presumptuous once. Dulin stared slightly, and his invisible aura swept the audience instantly. This is Haki from Conquerors. After superimposing Kaido, Charlotte Linlin, and Luffy, the three natural overlords, the character Dulin was born to awaken Conqueror's Haki. The strength of Conqueror's Haki cannot be trained, it can only be improved with the improvement of the user's strength and courage. And Dulin's strength. Even if he hasn't experienced any training, he is probably already a strong man in the sea. How could the still young Enel withstand such a mental shock? The boy who claimed to be a god instantly rolled his eyes and passed out, his body fell down. Like Enel, the god's guards on the street, and even all the residents in the nearby streets, all foamed at the mouth and passed out in an instant. Oh, forgot that the primary's conquerors are uncontrollable. Only then did Dulin realize that although he owns conquerors, it is only the most primary. In this case, there will be no one to lead the way. Looking at the fallen god's guards on the ground below, Dulin sighed softly. Originally, I wanted these guys to lead the way to find the current god of Burka who asked him to abdicate on his own initiative. But now it seems that it is not working. In this case, there is only a simpler method. Between the vibrations of the wings, Dulin flew up to the sky like lightning, looking down at the town of White. Then, brilliant gold flames burst out from his body, and the huge gold wings spread. When the flames splashed in all directions, the golden divine bird was already soaring in the sky. The gold flame that swept across the sky instantly illuminated the entire town. The scorching temperature even made the residents of the town feel like they were about to be set on fire. They noticed the flames in the sky, they noticed the golden dragon in the sky. What is that? Countless people uttered almost terrified cries at the same time. Incomprehensible. Can't tell. Was that a hallucination, or is that the sun? Is it the sun god? Someone was shouting at the top of their lungs. Dulin just flapped his wings quietly and floated in the sky, just waiting quietly. It didn't make him wait too long. What the hell are you? An angry roar came from not far away. Dulin lowered his head, and on the top of a row of houses, a middle-aged man with a long gun was roaring and jumping. This is a man of rather strong build, who looks 34 years old, and wears a lot of gold decorations on his body. On the street behind him, many people dressed as the god's guard were gliding quickly on the street with shoes similar to ice skates. It should be him, right? Dulin thought so. God of Burka, is that you? The mighty voice echoed over the town. The face of the visitor changed instantly. It actually has wisdom. I thought it was a monster. Could it be that he is a person with the same ability as Enel? He stopped on the roof of a house, clenched the spear in his hands, and looked up at the golden dragon in the sky full of fear. It's me. Who are you? Who is this guy? What purpose? Very good. Dulin nodded slightly. Then from today onwards, the title of God belongs to me exclusively. Do you have any objections? God of Burka's expression changed. Not only is he a person with the same ability as Enel, but also his personality is the same. Just as he was about to say something, yellow gold flames began to splash on Dulin's body in the sky. The seemingly endless flames spewed from his body, turning into a huge cloud of flames that enveloped the entire sky. The blue sky is blocked and the sun is hidden. Only endless flames are left covering the sky. The god of Burka's eyes gradually became dull, and his mouth began to open wide. The golden flames are like clouds, like the ocean, but they are far less elegant than the clouds, and even less gentle like the ocean. What they bring to people is only the fear of destruction. Fear. Fear of the unknown and the great has turned the town into chaos in an instant. Destruction seems to be in the next instant. There were screams and howls everywhere. What is that? Flame. The flame is about to fall. Run, run. But where to run? The whole town has been covered in flames. Reject, or accept. Dulin's flat voice sounded again, or should I say, survival or destruction. At this time, the flames began to fall. All it takes is a thought from Dulin, and the falling flames will instantly burn the entire town to ashes. Even before the flames fell, the scorching heat had set many parts of the town on fire. Cold sweat had already dripped from the forehead of God of Burka in an instant, and his back was already drenched. The hands holding the spear became weak at this moment, and he could hardly stand still. Monster. Burka is being targeted by a monster. Destruction will come in an instant. He was so parched that he almost lost all mobility. But he knew that he must do something now. Something must be done. Stop, stop, great God. His stiff body recovered instantly, and he shouted towards the sky almost at the top of his lungs, I promise you. We surrender. The falling flames stopped in an instant, and then dissipated like a phantom. The blue sky and the scorching sun appeared above the sky again. If it wasn't for the scorching heat that remained, as if the golden dragon was still floating in the sky, then the people of Burka might think that everything was an illusion. Great. The golden dragon slowly lowered its altitude. When approaching the ground, his size shrank rapidly. When Dulin Luo arrived in front of the original god of Burka, he had already returned to his original appearance. It's the first time we met, and I will ask for your help in the future. The man was dumbfounded. How could it be such a young child? Chapter 5 Soul Fire. Flame bestowed. There is this wide square in the center of Burka, and there is a small white villa directly opposite the square. Although it looks more luxurious than the surrounding houses, the difference is not too big. However, this is indeed the abode of the god of Burka. It's just that at this time, the owner here has changed. Dulin sat lazily on the roof of the villa. On the square below, the god's guard is gathering. The one who is organizing them is none other than the former god of Sky Island, the man who calls himself Fram. After realizing Dulin's incomparable strength, Fram decisively chose to surrender. Even though Dulin is just a child who looks very young, but that is a child that Burka can't beat anyway. And now, Fram is summoning all the God's guards to swear allegiance to Dulin. God is what the nations of Sky Island call their rulers, and God's guard is, of course, the army. When troops with different expressions gathered in the square, Dulin's attention was placed on another place. In front of him, there was a treasure chest that no one else could see except him. On the other side of the treasure chest, the panel awakened by him has also undergone some changes. Open black lens bracket territory. Burka Island close black lens bracket. Territory achieved a breakthrough from 0 to 1. The main mission has also moved forward by a stage, so of course, the treasure chest as a reward has also appeared in Dulin's hands. Now is the time to play your luck. As one of the very few benefits in the game that can be obtained without krypton gold, the rewards that can be opened from the treasure chest of the main task are actually very good. After all, we still have to take care of the feelings of the prostitute party. Dulin is still looking forward to it. He took a slow breath, then stretched out his hand and pressed on the box. There was light flickering in the gap of the box, and then the lid opened. A card flew out of the box. Oh, Dulin's eyes lit up instantly. Cards are generally good stuff. Character cards, talent cards, skill cards, no matter which one is not bad. The card floated in front of him. Dulin's eyes widened instantly. On the face of the card is a man. Black's long hair and thick black mustache, one can say that he is very similar to Roger. But of course he wasn't Roger. Yhwach. Dulin called out the name of the man on the card. He is really the final boss of the Shinigami studio next door, the ancestor of the Quincy Master, Yhwach. This is a talent card from Jabok. It carried a certain talent of the man. Dulin's talents are the result of buying a lot of talent cards. So, which one of Yhwach's talents is it? Dulin reached out and crushed the card. He instantly felt that there was something more in his body, and some new information instantly appeared in his mind. Dulin quickly opened the talent panel. A brand new talent has been added above. Open black lens bracket soul fire close black lens bracket. And the introduction to this talent is like this. Soul fire. From Yhwach, give others the fire seed mixed with your own soul power, and give others the power of flame. The fire seed will engrave the knowledge and skills possessed by the carrier. If a large amount of soul power is injected, the fire seed will stimulate the potential of the carrier and evolve into a form suitable for the carrier. The fire can be recovered at any time. Close black lens bracket. Dulin almost gasped. Hit the jackpot. Obtained the ability that made Yhwach a god. The only difference is that Yhwach directly bestows the soul fragments, while he himself bestows the soul fire. But the same thing is that they all use other people as their fields to grow their own Tongtian vines. The corners of Dulin's mouth could not help but raise. God, all the members of the God's Guard are here. Brett's respectful voice came from below. Dulin came back to his senses and lowered his head. On the square below, the gathered God's Guards have already stood in formation. A total of 1,352 people, please review. Fram stood respectfully at the front of the queue and reported to Dulin. Dulin flapped his wings, and his body floated up from the roof. Visible to the naked eye, the faces of the God's guardians in the queue are more or less frightened and fearful. Everyone could see the flames that filled the sky just now. Under Fram's explanation, they knew that the destructive flame was brought by the boy in the sky. However, who can keep calm in front of monsters that can bring destruction to themselves at any time? But Dulin didn't care about that. He looked down at the guards of the gods, and then said calmly, "From today onwards, I am the new god of Burka, please fight hard for me." Yes, Fram was naturally the first one to set an example. He stood up straight and responded loudly, "We will swear allegiance to my god." The other members of the God's Guard hesitated for a moment, and then hurriedly shouted, "Swear allegiance to my god." The corners of Dulin's mouth curled slightly, and he looked at Fram with some appreciation. Among other things, this guy at least knows the times. Then, let's experiment with new abilities on him. The gods are merciful. You have given your loyalty, and of course I will not begrudge the gift. Dulin chuckled, and he looked at Fram. "Fram, as my original servant, I appoint you as the new captain of the God's Guard." Yes. Fram nodded with a serious face. This young god is a real monster. A little disobedience may lead to destruction. No matter what he says, just obey it. Then, this is the second reward. Dulin raised his right hand, and a faint flame splashed on his fingertips. Fram's pupils shrank instantly. Can you still release flames when you are not using the ability? Moreover, the halo behind this god, if you look carefully, is indeed made of flames. Could it be? It's the Lunaria tribe in Legendary. But it's not right. The color of the hair, the color of the wings, and the color of the skin don't match. Dulin didn't know what Fram was thinking. He just said calmly, "Don't refuse, Fram, this is a reward for your loyalty." He flicked his fingers, and the little fire between them bounced out. Seeing the flames flying towards him, Fram didn't dare to neglect in the slightest. He remained motionless. The god didn't have to spend so much trouble trying to kill himself. Although it is incomprehensible, perhaps, it is really a reward. The fire light landed on Fram's forehead, and then, like drops of water falling on the ground, the flame penetrated into Fram's forehead in an instant. Forehead. Fram snorted, his body trembling, and he staggered backwards. Everyone in the God's Guard present tensed up. Fram is a very open-minded and benevolent ruler, and almost everyone present respects him very much. They didn't want to see this lord suffer such bad luck. However, they are simply overthinking. In the next instant, Fram suddenly opened his eyes. His pupils have turned golden at this moment. Very good. Dulin nodded slightly. Bestowing kindling does not mean that it can be given forcibly. If it is not accepted voluntarily, it cannot be forcibly integrated. From the looks of it now, Fram and Tinder merged very smoothly. Dulin looked at him expectantly. Fram, show off the power you got. He has 3 kinds of flames, the common gold flame, the healing yellow flame, and the destroying yellow-red flame. The flame of destruction is not intended to be given to anyone. Among the remaining 2 flames, the one given to Fram is the common gold flame. So, what will it look like in him? Fram's eyes were still a little dazed, but a strange feeling surged in his heart, and he raised his hands in a daze. Bear. Brilliant flames spewed out from his palm, blooming like a flower, and withering after illuminating his face. Quote. Exclamation mark quote. Fram widened his eyes. This is. Dulin smiled and said, it's just a seed, try to make it take root and germinate, and then blossom and bear fruit, Fram. I can only harvest when it is ripe. God. Fram looked up at Dulin in a daze. He actually endowed himself with the power of flames. Could it be, is it really a god? Dulin looked at the members of the God's Guard who also looked astonished. Fight for me, warriors. Next, I will give you the power to surpass the ordinary. After a brief silence. Yes. It was a loud and unanimous response. Who doesn't want to gain power beyond mortals? Chapter 6 Burka Situation. Surrender Enel. The God's Guard quickly dispersed. Dulin didn't make any special arrangements, and asked them to act according to the usual arrangements. The only thing they are arranged to do is to inform everyone on the island that the god of Burka has changed. Don't worry too much about bestowing the tinder. Too many people. After all, tinder is a mixture of soul power and flames. Although it is not much, it is also the power that truly belongs to Dulin. It is not a small pressure for him to split too much at one time. Take it easy. Dulin himself lay leisurely on the roof and listened to Fram standing behind him respectfully talk about the situation on Burka Island. As a ruler, you can not care about ruling, but at least you must have some basic understanding of the place you rule. Burka Island is not very big, with a diameter of about 15 kilometers. The total number of residents on the island is 130,000, which is considered a medium level among the Sky Islands on the Bye Bye Sea. The general technology is cloud and shellfish. Island cloud can be processed into various types, and can even be used for fighting. As for shellfish, it is even more amazing. It can store all kinds of things, which are not only necessary for life, but also the main weapon for fighting. The currency prevailing on the island is called Ace Ancient Coin, and it is said that the exchange rate with Bailey in Qinghai is 10,000 to 1. But even with the money, there aren't many products available to buy. Residents on the island mainly make a living from fishing and planting. Fishing is okay, and there are many Sky Island fish living in Bye Bye Sea. The problem is planting. Although the island cloud also has the characteristics of mud and rocks, it can grow plants, but its fertility is too poor. The crops grown on the island are barely enough to make a living, and the variety is very limited. Many necessities are obtained through trades with other Sky Islands. There is an island called the Island of Gods over there in the domain of gods. At the end of the story, Fram sighed, it is an island made of mud and rocks. It is said that it suddenly appeared on the Bye Bye Sea 400 years ago. Simply a gift from God. Island of Gods. Of course Dulin knew that the realm of God mentioned by Fram was the place where the story of Sky Island in the original work took place. In the future, Enel would rule the Island of God and Angel Island. As the realm of God far from Burka? Dulin asked lightly. Quote. Fram paused for a moment, and carefully looked down at Dulin. This young god, isn't he eyeing the realm of gods again? But since it was God's inquiry, of course he couldn't hide it. Fram didn't notice that after accepting Dulin's blessing, he unconsciously began to recognize his status as a god in his heart. This is also a matter of course, the fire he accepted contains the power of Dulin's soul. It is also natural to be influenced by Tinder. It's not too far, about 120 nautical miles to the east. Fram said respectfully. Yeah, Dulin nodded slightly. It really wasn't that far away, and it took at most half an hour to fly there. How many Sky Islands are there in Baibaihi and Baihai? Dulin asked again. Does God even want to rule the entire sky? Shocked, Fram couldn't help but become more respectful. There are 9 on the White Sea, and 14 on the White Sea, a total of 23. 23. It's more than expected. It sounds like a lot, but it's actually pretty shabby. Burka, with a total population of more than 100,000, is already a medium-level island in the 2 sea areas. The combined population of the White Sea and the White Sea is estimated to be 1 to 2 million. But this is just right, the hegemony of conquering the world starts here. But there is no need to worry too much, let's manage Burka well first. Conqueror, the rule required by the main line is not just a name, it must be a real rule. Of course, a little Burka Dulin can do whatever it wants, and no one dares to resist him. But what about expanding the scope to Baibaihi and Baihai? How about expanding to Qinghai? A single person cannot rule the world, and Dulin is not yet omniscient. Therefore, he needs to build a team that can support him to rule the world. The flame of soul can come in handy at this time. I can create a team that is completely loyal to myself. Dulin thought so. Let's start with God's Guard. Let's create a batch of knights who have received the blessing of the fire seed first, and then talk about expansion. My God. At this time, a servant suddenly ran out from the small villa below, and bowed respectfully towards the roof. Enel is awake. Dulin stretched and sat up when he heard this. Are you finally awake? My god, are you trying to subdue Enel? Fram said worriedly, that kid has suffered a lot of unfair treatment on the island since he was a child. His character is very extreme. I'm worried. No one can deny God's request. The wings on Dulin's back fluttered, and he had already floated up, flew out of the roof and fell down. I will give him an undeniable condition. Fram didn't say anything more, just silently jumped off the roof and followed. The small villa was not very big, and Dulin soon followed the servants to the place where Enel was being held. D. Enel was placed in a vat made of island clouds, and the part from the neck down was covered by White's cloud. It's Haiyan. Although it is a cloud, it is also the sea. Possesses the same nature as sea water, and can also restrain ability users. Burka doesn't have sea stone, so he can only use this method to control Enel. You guy. Dulin smiled. It's time to call me differently. Enel, you should call me God. Enel gritted his teeth. He saw Fram respectfully following behind Dulin. This guy actually succeeded. That's right. This D must also have extraordinary power, otherwise it would be impossible for him to lose consciousness instantly when he didn't realize it at all. Enel, you have potential. Dulin said gently, come and be my subordinate, I allow you to stand by my side. Yeah ha ha ha. Enel responded to Dulin with a defiant smile, want to make Lousy submit to you. Stop talking stupid, idiot. Who do you think Lousy is? Enel, shut up. Fram snapped angrily, who do you think you're talking to? Tisk, have you completely turned into a dog's leg? Enel looked down on Fram with disdain. He already thought that he would replace Fram sooner or later, and since he gained the ability, he never paid attention to the god of Sky Island. D. Fram became even more angry, and the gold in his eyes became dazzling. Okay, Fram, don't need to be angry. Dulin smiled. As god, Fram died down in an instant, and stood aside respectfully. What did this guy do to this idiot, Fram? Enel was incomprehensible. Enel, who has been looked down upon since he was a child, is very good at observing. How could he fail to see that Fram is sincerely convinced at this time? Enel. Dulin looked at the boy in front of him. What dream do you have? Dream. Enel was taken aback. Chapter 7 Lunaria's legendary. Out of the world. Talk about dreams, of course. This world is a world of freedom and dreams. Whether it's the protagonist or the supporting role, whether it's a decent guy or a villain, everyone is talking about their dreams. Enel is certainly no exception. Dulin is very clear about his dream, but still wants him to speak out. What does it have to do with you? Enel sneered. Even in prison, he will never bow his head. Living in adversity since he was a child, he didn't learn anything else, but learned to be fierce like a wolf and arrogant like a cat. No matter who the enemy is or how terrifying, he will never bow his head. However, if you die, everything will be empty. Dulin said faintly, no matter how great the dream, no matter how beautiful the vision, everything can only be reduced to nothingness. Is it really good that I didn't see the scene I dreamed of until the end of my life? Enel was silent for a moment. He did have a dream that he wanted to realize no matter what. It is indeed a dream that would be extremely unreconciled if it died. I'll just say it straight, Enel. Dulin said, I admire you very much, so I hope to get your strength. For this reason, I will realize your dream. Whether to follow me, or just die, this shouldn't be a difficult multiple choice question. Quote. Enel raised his head suddenly, his eyes were fierce, are you threatening me? It's an invitation. Dulin smiled and said, I have a great dream, but I need the help of many people. I hope you will be one of them. Quote. Enel was silent again, then raised his eyebrows and looked at Dulin, can you really realize my dream? You can tell me as much as you want. Dulin smiled. If it is someone else's dream, it may not be sure. But if it is your dream, it is indeed a sure thing. Enel took a deep breath, I want to go to Infinite Land. It was his lifelong dream, and he wanted it to come true no matter what. What? The Infinite Land? Before Dulin said anything, Fram had already exclaimed. Dulin glanced back at him. Fram immediately explained, my god, the Infinite Land is a legendary that has been handed down in Burka for hundreds of years. It is said that our ancestors moved to Sky Island from a boundless land. There, that boundless land, our hometown, is called the Infinite Land. That's right. Enel's tone was fanatical, that's the abode of the gods. It's the origin of everything. That Infinite Land is the place I should return to. Dulin nodded knowingly, of course he was very clear about this. Then, knowingly, he asked, so, where is that Infinite Land? Fram hesitated for a moment, then raised his right index finger upwards. On the sky, it's the moon. He looked at Dulin. In Legendary, all the people with wings came to Qinghai from the moon, in. After a pause, Fram said, under the leadership of the group known as Gods. The group called Gods. Enel was surprised. Fram glanced at Enel, then at Dulin's back, or at the ring of flames floating behind his head, the Lunaria clan. It's just a description in Legendary, and they call it a god. Lunaria. Enel was taken aback. A name I've never heard of. It is said that they can survive in all kinds of harsh environments. They are born with indestructible bodies and can manipulate flames at will. Fram said solemnly, is that so? Dulin chuckled. He raised his right hand, and a flame was already rising from his hand. Enel was stunned. Fram also couldn't hide his shock. God, could it be that you really are? It was just speculation before, but now it can finally be confirmed. The Lunaria clan, Enel screamed. Just now I said that the race was only described in a few words in Legendary, but now it appears alive in front of me. A race called God. Enel's eyes widened. Real God. Maybe. Dulin put away the flames, and said flatly, but it doesn't make sense, now I am the God, not any other group. Fram took a deep breath, then bowed his head respectfully. Yes, your will. If it is the Lunaria family, then God Dulin is indeed born to rule the sky. He is a descendant of the gods. Dulin nodded slightly, and looked at the shocked Enel. That means you want to go to the moon, right? Quote. That's right. After a brief shock, Enel looked at Dulin provocatively again. What about the so-called God's clan? Nothing to do with him. Can you take me there? Sure. Dulin smiled. It's not a difficult thing. Enel and Frame were at a loss at the same time. They suspect they have heard wrong. What I'm talking about now is going to the moon. Are you serious? Enel couldn't help asking. Certainly. Dulin nodded lightly. It's just that it's not the right time yet. You haven't made any achievements yet, so I'll just reward you for no reason, right? Enel immediately sneered. Are you fooling Lousy as a fool? Then how does Lousy know if you have the ability to realize Lousy's dream? Isn't this easier? Just experiment now. Dulin replied like this. What? Enel was startled again. Experiment. What? Dulin snapped his fingers lightly. I can take you to see outside the world. Outside the world. Enel was at a loss. Chapter 8 Enel's Surrender. Advanced Tinder Empowerment. The time comes tonight, when the bright moon rises in the east. On the square in the center of Burka, Dulin, Fram, and Enel stood on the square. My god, is it really okay to just let go of this kid? Frame looked at Enel who was standing aside. After losing Hyen's suppression, this kid has regained his vitality. His ability is very dangerous, as long as he wants to escape, it will not be easy to catch him again. Don't worry, Fram, Dulin said with a smile, Enel won't leave. Snort. Enel snorted coldly, but didn't deny it either. Of course he won't leave so easily. After all, the opportunity to go to that dream land may really be in front of him, and he wants to try it anyway. No matter how cruel and tyrannical he is, Enel at this time is still only a 12 or 13-year-old child, and there is no lack of innocence in his character. He was willing to trust Dulin Yi for a while. So what? Enel looked at Dulin, and there was no lack of sarcasm in his tone. How do you prove it to me? That's all. The brilliant gold light enveloped Dulin, and the golden armor instantly covered his body. White's wings on the back turned into gold, and another pair of wings grew out from below. Dulin turned into a golden knight. Quote. Both Frame and Enel's faces were filled with astonishment at the same time. Enel was amazed at Dulin's change at this time. He hadn't seen Dulin displaying his ability before. As for Fram, he was astonished. Why Dulin Ming is a zone ability user, but the human beast form is so different. Let me take you to see the starry sky. Dulin stretched out his hands and grabbed the shoulders of the two. Then the wings on his back vibrated, and he had turned into a retrograde meteor, leading the two of them soaring into the sky. So fast, Enel exclaimed in his heart. The oncoming wind howled, even making him unable to open his eyes. But he heard Dulin say, Are you ready? It's time to speed up. So Fram saw in astonishment that the ring of fire behind Dulin's head disappeared, and his speed increased instantly. Really Lunaria, although the appearance is a little different, the characteristics of the abilities they possess are exactly the same as those of the Lunaria tribe. This young god really came from a group called gods. Enel didn't have as much as Frame thought. He just looked down. Bai was going away quickly, and they were flying higher and higher. Breathing is gradually becoming difficult, and the body is rapidly becoming cold. But Enel's heart is still full of anticipation. Is it really getting closer? Infinite land. This flight is quite a period of time. Enel gradually felt that the attraction of the ground below to him gradually became less and less, and even completely disappeared in the end. Suddenly, Dulin stopped. In this case, you should be able to see clearly. Enel felt Dulin let go of him, and then heard Dulin's voice, Enel, look up. So he looked up. He saw a dark space. Looking down, there is a huge, barely visible blue planet, wrapped in a layer of light. He floats in this space, neither rising nor falling. Looking around, there are twinkling stars everywhere. Are we out of the world? Fram's forehead was covered with cold sweat. This kind of thing, but he had never thought of it in his life. I've said it all, it's not a difficult thing. Dulin said lightly. The universe of this world is completely different from the previous life. The fact that Enel was able to reach the moon in his air-leaking broken ship shows one thing. There is air in the universe, and the temperature is not low. So whether it is going into space or landing on the moon, it will not be too difficult. Enel looked up abruptly. Then his eyes froze. Above him, that pale and beautiful star quietly floated in the void. Here, the patterns on the planet can already be seen clearly. Take me there. Enel could hardly wait, and anxiously said to Dulin, take me there. That's not okay. Dulin smiled. The god's gift is given because of your merits, and you can't take it on your own initiative. Moreover, the distance between the moon and Shanghai is calculated in terms of 100,000 kilometers. It is not an easy thing to fly there. At least at this stage, it is a difficult task for Dulin. UB*********D. Enel gritted his teeth. The infinite land is already close at hand, but it still cannot be touched in the end. He looked at Dulin. But this guy's words can really take him there. You can take him to the home of your dreams. One last time, Enel, are you willing to entrust your power to me? Dulin asked. Enel took a deep breath. Then, there is only one answer. I will be loyal to you. Great, so next, Enel. Dulin stretched out his right hand. Flames burst out from his fingertips. Let me give you new power. Enel certainly deserves more soul power from himself. I'm curious, what kind of potential can Tinder bring out in him? What will it evolve into? Are you ready, Enel? Dulin flicked the flame towards Enel. Accept it, accept the gift of God. Chapter 9 Enel's Thunder and Fire. Knights of the Sun. Sunlight pours from the windows. Dulin felt a burning heat that made him feel comfortable, and he opened his eyes. God, are you awake? A soft voice rang in my ears. Dulin looked back. What caught in his pupils was a beautiful and moving face. The flaxen-colored hair is flowing, the facial features are soft and moist, and the eyes are full of tenderness like rippling water. This is a very young and attractive girl. She held Dulin in her arms from behind Dulin, and the soft and warm touch made Dulin feel very comfortable. Get dressed. Dulin yawned a little, rubbed his sleepy eyes, and sat up. The soft cloud-like quilt slipped off his body, revealing his immature but still flawless body. Yes. The girl nodded respectfully, lifted the quilt and got out of bed. Her body was slender and plump, her plump lines filled with a youthful and energetic beauty, and even the pair of tiny wings on her back were delicate and pretty. Rika, God has woken up, come in and help him change his clothes. The girl called out softly as she picked up the clothes she put aside and put them on. On one side of the magnificently decorated room, the door opened slightly, and another blonde girl in a maid outfit walked in with her head down, holding a stack of neat clothes in her hands. God. The girl named Nica bowed respectfully towards Dulin. This is, the flaxen-haired girl had already dressed, and the two came to the bed together to help Dulin get dressed. Feeling the delicate fingers of the maid sliding across his skin, Dulin yawned slightly. What a depraved life. These two maids were specially selected by Fram to take care of his daily life. The one with flaxen hair is called Angie, and the one with gold hair is called Nica, both of which are the most outstanding girls on Burka Island. Dulin has no objection to this. I said that I want to live my life wantonly, of course I have to follow through to the end. At this time, it is already half a month after the space travel. After giving Enel the fire that night, Dulin regretted it. It's not that I regret this decision, but that I chose the wrong place and time. Enel is of course given the advanced fire seed, which can stimulate his potential and evolve into a fire seed that adapts to his appearance. Enel's potential is absolutely worthy. But the problem lies in the setting of advanced tinder. The advanced fire is different from the common fire given to Fram, and requires Dulin to inject a lot of soul power. There are two problems. One is a lot. It can only be said that it is too much. As for the other, it should be quality. The quality of soul power consumed by advanced tinder and common tinder is also different. After giving Enel the fire, Dulin felt a weakness from the depths of his soul, as if a piece of his soul was missing. Under extreme fatigue, when returning to Sky Island, Dulin almost fell asleep several times. If he had known this would happen, he would not be in a hurry, but would wait until he returned to Burka before giving the fire to Enel. Even with the healing fire in the form of a ball, this weak state lasted for more than a week. And even if the amount of soul power has been supplemented at this time, it is still lacking in quality. It is probably impossible to make a second advanced spark in a short time. From this, Dulin realized that his advanced spark probably cannot be bestowed on too many people. It can only take the elite route like the Star-Crossed Knights. It doesn't matter, the advanced tinder is not good, but the basic tinder is still okay. Although low-level tinder can't stimulate the potential of the host, there are at least two styles to choose from. Gold flame for battle, yellow flame for healing. It is also enough to build a strong army. In short, let's start with the God's Guard and form a Sun Knights. While thinking this way, the two maids had already dressed Dulin. Rika said respectfully, God, breakfast is ready. Dulin nodded slightly. Burka is indeed lacking in products, and even the breakfast provided to Dulin, the god of Burka, is lackluster. The only thing that can be called eye-catching is the characteristic fish from Beibai. Fish that live among the clouds sounds interesting. It's a pity that the taste is a little different, and the others are not much different from ordinary fish. After finishing breakfast in twos and twos, Dulin went out slowly. His residence at this time is another newly built villa on the edge of the square. Although Frame proposed that he give up the original villa, Dulin did not want a second-hand house. So the craftsman on the island spent a few days temporarily building a new villa for him. This is not a difficult task, Dalian is quite convenient to process, and the craftsman quickly built another villa for Dulin. It is perfectly sufficient as a temporary residence. As for the official temple, let's talk about it after occupying the domain of gods. In the square, two people are fighting. It's Enel and Fram. Discharge. Enel turned into a thunderbolt and flashed into the sky. He pressed his hands down, and brilliant lightning burst out from his two palms and whizzed down. The lightning he released was not the blue and white lightning he used before, but a golden thunder. Like Fram, his pupils have also turned golden yellow, which is exactly the same color as the thunder he released at this time. It wasn't just the color of thunder that changed, but its nature also changed at the same time. It was clearly thunder, but it was floating like a flame. This is the creation created when the fire seed that Dulin bestowed on Enel merged with his own thunder. Enel named thunder fire. Dulin's reaction when he heard the name was that it's a good thing he doesn't use a sword. Compared with the simple thunder in the past, the power of the thunder fire fired by Enel at this time is more than doubled. But this is not what the flames will look like after adapting to Enel, it's just a simple fusion. He has not yet evolved the ability that really belongs to Enel. However, it was scary enough. The golden thunder flames covered almost half of the sky, pouring towards Fram overwhelmingly. Fortunately, the former god of Burka was not in vain. Fire shield. Fram stretched out his left hand. Flames spewed out from his hands, and then condensed into a broad shield in front of him. The golden flame in Dulin's golden bird form can be shaped at will, and can even be turned into a solid body. Fram inherited such abilities. Boom. The collision of the thunder and the shield, the splendid flames and the electric light began to eject at the same time. In the flames of the explosion, a flaming gun pierced out, heading straight for Enel in the sky. The flame gun directly pierced Enel's body, and then exploded instantly, forming a huge fireball in the sky. But in the next moment, golden thunder gathered in front of Fram, who had just thrown the flaming spear, and Enel sneered and condensed his body, flicking his right hand. The golden beam of thunder and fire has directly blasted Fram out. Snort. Fram snorted softly, and then landed heavily on his feet. His body was covered with flame armor. Heard it perfectly, he said. Tisk. Enel snorted coldly. Is it that move again? Okay, let's go here. Dulin walked over clapping his hands. It seems that the strength has adapted well. God. Fram and Enel bowed and greeted Dulin at the same time. Even as rebellious as Enel, after accepting Dulin's kindling, his attitude quickly became respectful. It's all the power bestowed by you, God. Fram's tone was full of reverence. The more proficient you are, the more you can feel the power of the flames in your body. What I give you is just the fire, and it is you who make it take root. Dulin smiled and said, you are very talented to be able to cultivate fire seeds to such an extent in such a short period of time, Fram. Yes. Fram bowed again excitedly. The approval of the gods, of course, made him feel overwhelmed. Enel pouted. Obviously, he has become stronger by a greater margin. After merging with the flames, the power of Thunderbolt simply increased dramatically. As for Enel, Dulin looked at Enel, the fire I gave you is not that simple, just keep working hard and keep cultivating it. Then, awaken your own special abilities. Enel looked serious and nodded seriously. So, Fram, have you picked out all the people I asked you to pick? Dulin asked. Yes, Fram Kaido, there are 50 people in total, all of whom are the most excellent members of the God's Guard. Great. Dulin smiled and said, then call them here quickly, today is the day when the Solar Knights were established. Chapter 10 God's Gift. Healing Flame. The Knights of the Sun is the name Dulin gave to the organization to be established next. As the name suggests, the Knights of the Sun is of course a queue of warriors who fight for the sun. Each of them had to be an elite warrior endowed with the power of fire by Dulin. Dulin plans to divide his army into 3 levels in the future. The most basic, the common people who have not received any abilities, they still maintain the organization of the God's Guard. The higher level warriors who have received the fire form the Sun Knights. In future wars, they will be the backbone of the battle force. The highest level, of course, is like Enel, a powerful warrior who has received the gift of advanced Tinder, stimulated his potential, and awakened his own ability. Dulin is going to call them the Knights of God. He is the strongest warrior who protects himself as a god. However, the establishment of this organization is still early, and there is only Enel, a Knight of God, so what kind of group is there? But the Knights of the Sun can be proclaimed now. Didn't make Dulin wait long. Fram came with 50 people he had carefully selected from the God's Guard. Tritter is 20 years old, still unmarried, living in Burka East, and he is the only one in the family. The only thing that is more special is probably that he works in the God's Guard, a member of the warriors who guard the island and fight for the gods. He's also always been proud of who he is. In order not to embarrass the God's Guard, he never gave up training, and has always been one of the most excellent members of all warriors. God Fram also appointed him as a soldier captain. But such a stable life came to an abrupt end. Trit, the golden dragon that appeared in the sky that day, felt that he would never forget it in his life. Burka has a new god, a very cute and beautiful child. But Tritter and all his colleagues did not dare to underestimate him. The flames that darkened the skies of Burka that day still haunt dreams. Tritter lived in fear every day those days, the fear that the flames would suddenly fall from the sky and burn himself and everything completely to ashes. Fortunately, the young god Dulin didn't do anything wrong after gaining the dominant position, and people returned to their original lives after a temporary astonishment. Life seemed unchanged except that Mr. Frame had changed from a god to a captain of the God's Guard. By the way, Mr. Frame also obtained the power to manipulate flames under the gift of God Dulin. Is that god Dulin really a god? Not only Tritter, many colleagues have the same idea. If not God, then how can such power be given to others? Tritter and his colleagues are looking forward to it. God Dulin said that he will give them the same power as Mr. Fram. Tritter had been looking forward to it since that day. And today, what I have been looking forward to seems to have finally come true. Tritter had been aware of it since Mr. Frame had singled him out of his colleagues. But when he and his selected colleagues came to the central square to line up, and when God Dulin flapped his wings and descended from the sky, Tritter still couldn't control his inner excitement. God's gift, is this about to fall on me? Dulin looked down at the warriors selected by Fram. Too many can't tell, at least everyone is tall and powerful, full of energy. Not bad. Dulin thought so. His requirements for the Sun Knights are not too high. Talented people like Fram are only a minority after all, and it is enough to be able to serve as cannon fodder in future wars. Everyone. Dulin's calm voice sounded, you are all elites carefully selected from more than 1,000 members of God's Guard. There is only one reason for you to gather here. I want to create a legion directly under me, a legion composed of warriors who have accepted my gift. Be proud, you were chosen. It is true. Tritter clenched his fists when he heard this. Really want to accept the gift of God. Thank you God for your grace. Mr. Fram had already taught Tritter how to deal with this situation before. Like all his colleagues, he knelt down and thanked the gods for his grace. Dulin nodded. Just take a formality. Anyway, after accepting their own fire, their life and death are under their own control, and they will respect themselves under the influence of the power of their souls. Although this psychological impact is far from absolute, it is also useful enough. Dulin raised his hands, and two groups of flames appeared in his left and right hands respectively. On the right hand is a golden flame, much larger in scale, which is the same flame given to Enel Fram, used for battle. The one in the left hand is a light yellow flame, not only smaller, but also much softer. This is the healing flame that Dulin can use in the form of a ball. Accept my gift, warriors. Dulin stretched out his hands. The two flames in his hand split instantly, turning into sparks one by one and heading towards the neatly lined up warriors. The yellow flame was divided into 5 flames, and the golden flame was divided into the remaining 45 parts, which submerged into the foreheads of 50 warriors respectively. Dulin let out a long breath, and the feeling of weakness reappeared. The power of the soul was consumed too much, and this time it was even worse than before. But fortunately, the quality has not been lost, and it feels better than last time. But it will probably take some time off. Dulin cheered up, now is not the time to sleep. Tritter saw a flame flying towards him, and then felt a heat on his forehead. Starting from this, a warm feeling flowed all over his body in an instant. It's so warm and comfortable, it's like being connected to a great will, like being embraced by God. The power bestowed by God filled the whole body. At this moment, Tritter even wanted to cry. Feel the power of God. There is no doubt that this Dulin god is different from all the previous Shendu of Burka, he is a real god. Tritter opened his eyes, and he already felt the power hidden in his body at this moment. Seeing the warriors open their eyes one by one, Dulin nodded in satisfaction. In this case, the Solar Knights have already begun to take shape. Fellow warriors, Dulin said with a smile, try the power you got. The warriors who couldn't wait to get God's order immediately began to mobilize the power they had just obtained in their bodies. Puff 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 puff. So for a while, the sound of flames gushing out one after another, and the scene looked like fireworks. One by one, the warriors exclaimed as they watched the flames emerge from their palms. Dulin observed for a while, and there was no one comparable in size to when Fram just awakened. Tritter, like his colleagues, eagerly began to release the power in his body. However, the flames that emerged from his palm were far from bursting like his colleagues. The light yellow soft flame wrapped his hand, making him feel the warmth from the bottom of his heart. Only, what's happening here? Tritter looked around. The flames in the hands of his colleagues were completely different from his. He was a little dazed, is there something wrong with him? Then Tritter heard the voice of God. Some warriors have probably discovered that their flames are different. Tritter raised his head instantly, and he heard the god continue to say, that's because you are different. Gold's flame is a spear that defeats powerful enemies, and the yellow flame is a shield that protects allies. That is a healing flame, a flame that can heal pain. Healing fire. Tritter looked down at the flames burning in his hands. Guardian, companion's shield. Tritter felt the flames burning, not in his hands, but in his heart, a flame was gradually burning. Dulin yawned, turned his head to look at Fram, and said forcefully, Fram, I'll leave it to you. You should also be the head of the Sun Knights. As God, Fram nodded solemnly, leave it to me, please. Chapter 11 Praise God's name. Get ready to expand. Hockey. Tritter squatted on the ground, he stretched out his hands seriously, and light yellow flames flowed from his hands. In front of him was a crying child. There was a long wound on the child's calf, and blood was still flowing out. This kid is too naughty. Behind the child, the mother hugged her child with red eyes, playing around in the kitchen. I accidentally got such a big wound with a knife. Don't worry, leave it to me. Tritter smiled. Light yellow flames fell on the child's lap. But this did not bring any pain to the child, on the contrary, it made the child who was crying because of the pain smile. It doesn't hurt anymore. It's warm and comfortable. His big eyes were full of curiosity, he looked curiously at Tritter's hand and the flame in his hand. Big brother, that's amazing. The child's mother was even more surprised, because she could clearly see that under the flames, the wound on her child's leg was healing rapidly. Divine power. Really just like in Legendary, these god warriors who now call themselves the Sun Knights have obtained the divine power bestowed by the gods. Alright, Tritter breathed a sigh of relief slowly, dissipating the flames from his hands. Unleashing the healing flame still consumes stamina. He is not like God Dulin, who can use it with almost no consumption. But the result is also gratifying. The long scar on the child's leg has healed at this time, and the scar has not stopped at all. Thank you very much. The child's mother bowed to Tritter in gratitude. You don't need to thank me. Tritter said seriously, thank God, it is God who gave me strength, and it is God's power that helped you. He looked up. In the sky ahead, a golden sphere quietly floated in the sky. Even if it just exists there quietly, there is a sacredness that makes people worship. Tritter put his right hand on his left chest, praise my God. Praise my God. The child's mother followed suit and bowed respectfully to the second sun in the sky. Even the little kid with a runny nose blinked, and then he said with a smile, Big brother, I want to become a sun knight in the future. Okay. Tritter smiled happily. Although he had heard this from countless children these days, he was still very happy. He rubbed the child's head, then grow up quickly, come and fight for my God. Dulin is floating above the sky. He was in ball form again. At this time, nearly 2 weeks have passed since the creation of the Sun Knights. The consumption of soul power has been recovered. The reason why Dulin maintains this appearance is purely because the spherical form can absorb sunlight to strengthen itself. Exercise. The purity is too low. The gods disdain it. On the square below, Frame, who is the head of the Knights of the Sun, is leading the Knights in the training of flame control. The current 50-member Sun Knights are divided into 5 teams, and each team happens to have a warrior with healing flames. With offense and treatment, it is already a very standard tactical team. But of course only warriors who have mastered the Golden Flame are trained here. The warriors of the Healing Flame were dispatched to give voluntary treatment to the residents of the island. While exercising ability, you can also spread the gift of God. Dulin decided to wait until next month to make a second batch of Sun Knights. One reason is that the consumption is a bit too high, and it is not good to fall into a weak state every now and then. As for the second reason, of course, the first batch of Sun Knights have not yet mastered their abilities, so there is no need to rush. The old lead the new, Fram suggested. After the second batch of Sun Knights appears, we can start expanding, right? Dulin thought so. Let's set the goal as the realm of the gods. There is no doubt that there is the central area of Baihai and Baibihai. Not to mention having the only mud island, the ruins of Shandora are also there, which represents a lot of gold. Should be easy. Dulin estimated that he didn't even need to make a move. Enel and Fram could sweep the entire god's domain with the Sun Knights. Of course, Dulin is not hanging in the sky all day long, at least he will come down to eat. God. Every meal time, 2 beautiful maids had already prepared sumptuous food for Dulin, and they respectfully stood by Dulin's side to serve him. Dulin even just needs to open his mouth. What a depravity. Dulin sighed. If it goes on like this, it is estimated that I will even forget how to eat. After lunch, Frame came to Dulin to report the latest work progress. Dulin leaned lazily in Angie's arms, and Nica put his legs on her thighs and kneaded them gently. Fram turned a blind eye and said respectfully, God, the Sun Knights have become more and more proficient in mastering the fire of divine grace. But this is only at the skill level, and the flame power displayed by different knights varies. Dulin nodded slightly, which was expected. Different people have different adaptability to fire, and the difference in their own strength will also affect the output of fire. What about the healing inflammation? Dulin rubbed his head and changed to a more comfortable position. Jaya's cheeks were a little rosy, but her chest was still puffed out. Have you calculated the effectiveness of the healing inflammation? Yes, my God. Fram said in a deep voice, the 5 owners of the healing flame headed by Tritter have been doing voluntary treatment on the island these days. He became a little excited, as expected of the power of God bestowed by you, the effect is extraordinary. No matter how serious the injury is, as long as it is not dead, it can be treated. Even many diseases can be cured. Disease. Dulin raised his eyebrows. Although this fruit was set by him himself, many details still need to be explored by himself. Yes. Fram nodded, the healing inflammation seems to restore the body to its previous state. In this case, even the disease is no longer a problem. Dulin nodded slightly. The setting of healing flame is to heal injuries. My God, the healing power you bestowed has been passed on by the people of Burka, and everyone is extolling the name of God. Fram said so. In other words, indirectly, is his reputation skyrocketing? Not bad. Dulin asked again, where's Enel? How's your practice going? A smile appeared on Fram's face. That kid, you're far from getting started. Hardnet is not such a simple power. Hardnet, this is the mysterious power circulating in Sky Island. In fact, it is observation hockey. Yes, Frame will use observation hockey. At Dulin's request, Enel reluctantly learns this power from him. Frame felt very comfortable about this. After all, the rebellious Enel could only bow his head to him. Really? Then let him work hard. Dulin closed his eyes comfortably. It is impossible to become a top player in this world without mastering a powerful enough hockey. Teacher Kaido said it well, hockey is the power that overrides everything. As for why Dulin doesn't practice himself. Do you know what is called natural overlord? Mr. Rayleigh said that hockey will grow in the confrontation with powerful enemies. Dulin assures that this is true, because he only needs to fight hockey masters to achieve hockey evolution. Fram. Dulin finally said, get ready for war. Fram paused, then bowed respectfully, if this is your will, please let me fight for you. Burka, I will fight for you. Very good, the first goal is the domain of God. Chapter 12 Burka Technology. God's Domain. Fram left in a hurry. War is not an easy thing. There are many things that need to be coordinated. God, is there really going to be a war next? Nica, the blonde maid who pinched Dulin's leg, said cautiously. What's the matter, Rika? Dulin didn't even open his eyelids. Do you have anything to say? No, God, I'm just curious. The little maid trembled, realizing that she had made a slip of the tongue. God Dulin is cute and handsome, and has a gentle personality, but he is the god who rules Burka at this time after all. It is an existence that does not allow offense. Rika. Another maid, and Jaya reprimanded dissatisfiedly, this is God's decision, we just need to obey. Yes. The blonde-haired little maid suddenly fell silent. There's no need to be so serious, Angie. Dulin opened his eyes and looked at Nica leisurely. Is Nica worried that people will die in the war? Nica didn't dare to answer. She looked at sister and Jaya for help from the corner of her eye. And Jaya nodded lightly to signal her not to reject God's question. So the blonde maid took courage. Yes, God, Burka, has kept peace for many years. I regret the break of calm. Dulin said flatly. However, these are all necessary sacrifices. Angie and Nica felt a chill in their hearts instantly. The young god obviously has the most beautiful appearance, but he has a heart like steel. Dulin didn't care about the reaction of the two maids. It is enough for them to play the role of taking good care of them with peace of mind in the process of their growth. Not long after Frame left, Enel arrived excitedly. God. He bowed neatly to Dulin Yi. I heard that fellow Fram said that a war is about to start. That's right. Dulin nodded slightly. It's okay for you to take the lead, right? It's better to say, you can't ask for it. Enel's golden pupils were full of excitement. God has made an agreement with him. As long as he makes enough meritorious deeds, he can take him to the infinite land. This war is a great opportunity to gain meritorious service. Leave it to me, God. Enel nodded confidently. I won't let you down. Good. Of course Dulin believed in Enel. After obtaining the fire seed to greatly increase the destructive power, Enel's strength has improved by leaps and bounds compared to before. Coupled with Logia's special elemental ability, he already has the strength to cross the Beibai High. Enel excitedly continued to go back to practice the heart network. After Dulin took a nap, he continued to bask in the sun. The leisurely days are as usual. But Dulin has not been doing nothing all the time. When Fram was practicing the sun nights, Dulin also gave him another task. One day half a month later, Frame came to Dulin with his results. My god, I asked God's guard to search the entire Burka Island, and asked all the people on the island, and finally got something. What Fram handed to Dulin was a stack of yellowed papers. Dulin took it and opened it. This is a set of drawings for shipbuilding. Sophisticated drawings and detailed data. It is not easy to see at a glance. I never thought there was such a thing as Burka. Fram said with some emotion. But what surprised him even more was that God Dulin actually knew that such a thing existed in Burka. Not bad. The corner of Dulin's mouth hooked slightly. Enel will be able to build his ark in the future. Of course it cannot be that he is actually a hidden scientist. The name of the island is Burka. And Dulin knew from the comics that the name of the city where the moonman stayed on the moon was also called Burka. To say that there is no connection between the two, Dulin absolutely does not believe it. Look, isn't there a result? Dulin roughly flipped through the drawings in his hand. Well, it really is completely incomprehensible. This is probably the design drawing of the ship that the lunar man took when he came to Qinghai, right? In the future, the ark proverbs manufactured by Enel should be made from a part of this set of blueprints, right? It's also difficult for him, as there should be no Sky Island with many materials on the drawings. So Enel can only use Sky Island's special blast shell plus his thunderfruit as energy to make the ship fly. So, what would a full Burka ship look like? Dulin was a little curious. But it is useless to be curious now, not to mention resource issues, and Burka does not have craftsmen who can put this blueprint into practice. The shipwright of the water city might be able to. I can go there if I have a chance in the future. Now that Murloc Tom is still alive and well. God, Fram said solemnly, I think this blueprint may be left by the ancestors who moved down from the moon, and it is their reliance for sailing in the Star Sea. Then, he licked his lips. Are there any remaining islands and countries in the White Sea and the White Sea? Very correct point of view. Dulin smiled and said, then, go and help me bring them all back. Yes. Fram bowed solemnly, please leave it to us. The Sun Knights are ready to dispatch at any time. Very good. Dulin nodded slightly, then let them get ready. Have the candidates for the second batch of Sun Knights been selected? Yes. Fram nodded. After the establishment of the Sun Knights, the warriors of the God's Guard are striving to be the first. The quality of this batch should not be inferior to the first batch of Sun Knights. Great. Dulin raised his lips, then called them over, the second batch of Sun Knights, let them grow on the battlefield. Yes. Fram left in a hurry. The war is really about to start now. Soon, the second batch of selected warriors came to the square, and Dulin still gave them the golden fire and healing flame in a ratio of 9-1. Then he fell into a state of weak soul again. But it doesn't matter, this will only make Dulin feel sleepy, and will not affect his combat effectiveness at all. After all, although the source of ability is the Shinigami world, Dulin is not Shinigami. He doesn't fight with his soul. Moreover, in this war, he probably doesn't need to fight by himself. Thus, all the members of the Sun Knights assembled, and half of the God's Guard dispatched, and the mighty army assembled. The total number of people is as high as, well, a full 700 people. The target is the realm of the gods, more than 100 nautical miles away from Burka Island. The army is on the move. Chapter 13 Attack. Island of Gods. On the edge of Burka Island, ships have already docked here. There is no doubt that these ships are made of island clouds. There may be wooden ships in the realm of the gods, but on an island like Burka, which is purely composed of island clouds, wood is extremely scarce. There simply wasn't that much wood available for boat building. Fortunately, there is also the island cloud. The role of the island cloud in Sky Island is almost omnipotent. It can be used to build houses and furniture, and of course it can be used to build ships. What's more powerful than the boats on Qinghai Sea is that the boats on Sky Island don't use sails. Although they are equipped with oars, they are generally useless. Because the wind shells are installed all over the ship. Shells that can store wind power can even push Enel's spaceship to fly to the moon, so it is not difficult to push the Yunzhous to fly across the Sea of Clouds. The warriors under the god of Burka have taken their positions on the Yunzhou, and in the air, Freem is giving a speech. Yes, in the air. The wings on Fram's back had already turned golden yellow. And it became huge, allowing him to fly into the sky with a flap. The use of the flame that can shape the body as one likes is really too wide. It is not difficult to shape a pair of wings that can fly in the sky. This is a war waged for God. Fram was declaring to everyone, it is for the entire sky to be bathed in the glory of the gods. This is a glorious and just war. In order to spread the name of God. For God. Fram raised his arms and shouted. For God. The warriors on the ship shouted loudly and responded. In this frenzied atmosphere, everyone's faces were full of madness that would risk their lives. Dulin was sitting on a chair on the deck of the ship in the center of the fleet. It could barely be called the fleet. On both sides of him, two maids released yellow flames from their hands and landed on him. The position of the two maids in Dulin's heart is a vase, but the vase can also be useful. Dulin endowed them with healing inflammation, which can help them heal when they are weak. The frenzied shouts of the surrounding warriors reached Dulin's ears, and the corners of his mouth curled slightly. This is the power of faith. God. After Fram's speech was over, he looked at Dulin. Dulin nodded slightly, so Fram took a deep breath. Let's go. A total of 7 large ships, carrying 700 warriors from Burka Island, are attacking at this moment. The wind-blowing shell is activated, and the Yunzhous move forward quickly through the waves. Fram landed in front of Dulin, and he said in a puzzled way, God, we are already enough to capture a mere domain of God, so you don't have to risk yourself. Yes, God. Enel, who was sitting on the side of the ship with his arms folded, was also a little puzzled. You just need to stay in Burka and wait for the news of our victory. No. Dulin, who was still a little sleepy, raised his eyelids slightly, and said with a chuckle, there is a place I want to go. Yes. Fram nodded respectfully. He was just suggesting, but since the gods had already made a decision, of course he couldn't disobey it. It takes about half a day from Burka to the realm of the gods. Fram said again, please wait for a while. Dulin nodded slightly, then let's sleep for a while. Spirit is still very tired. When you wake up, you should be able to see the remains of Shandora, right? Why do the Shandorans keep a historical text? What kind of relationship do they have with the Burka people? Will there be traces left by the Shandora in the ruins of Shandora? Dulin looked forward to it. He fell into a deep sleep. The sleepiness from the soul makes his sleep quality very high. God. After an unknown amount of time, Dulin slowly opened his eyes under Anjia's gentle call. The charming girl who came into sight said softly, it's already here. Dulin raised his head and looked across the ship's side. At the end of his line of sight, 2 completely different islands were already clearly visible in the distance of White Sea. One is an island made of island clouds that are no different from Burka Island. But the other one was completely different. The lush trees cover it, and even from a long distance, you can still clearly feel the surging vitality. On the deck, both Frame and Enel looked back at Dulin. They are waiting for an order. Dulin stood up, walked to the side of the boat, and stretched himself against the oncoming sea breeze. He looked at the 2 islands in the distance. White's is called Angel Island, and Green's is called God's Island. Together they are the domain of God. The destination has arrived. So, Dulin said calmly, then attack. Fram held one hand, and the golden flames condensed into a flaming spear in his hand. He leapt into the air and shouted loudly, forward at full speed. The 7 Yunzhou ships were at full speed in an instant, and under the impetus of the jet shell, they flew across the sea like arrows flying towards the 2 distant islands. Then, the frontal battle will be left to you. With a flutter of Dulin's wings, he was already flying slowly. I'll go to that island to have a look. He was referring to the island of the gods. After all, Dulin is not at all interested in the battle between his warriors and Angel Island. Chickens are pecking at each other. Dulin was more interested in the Shandora ruins on the island of the gods. Yes. Fram nodded solemnly, just go on a tour, and when you come back, we've already won. Very good. Dulin nodded in satisfaction. It's a relief to have such subordinates. God, please let us go with you. And Jia suddenly said, how can I let you go on an adventure alone? If you don't follow God, you can't go charge with the warriors, right? Moreover, it is their job to take care of God's daily necessities. Follow you, Dulin said casually. Angie and Nica looked at each other. Then, yellow flames burned on their backs, and they also had a pair of wings that allowed them to fly. Although the healing flame has no lethality, it can shape the body just like the golden fire. Then, come on. Dulin flew to the island of gods with 2 maids. Watching them leave, Fram took a deep breath, absolutely not letting God down. Yeah ha ha ha. Then Lousy is one step ahead. Enel chuckled, and the person had already turned into lightning and disappeared on the boat. Snort. Fram snorted lightly, but didn't say anything. Let him go. Chapter 14 One-Sided War. Gan Fall. The area of Angel Island is not very large, and there are not many residents on the island. It can't be said that it's so unique on the sky that can't be called vast. The only place that can be regarded as special is probably on the side of Angel Island, and there is another island. An island that is unique in the sky, made of mud and rocks, and an island where plants can grow as much as they want. It is called the Island of the Gods by the residents of Angel Island. It is the place where the gods live, and mortals are forbidden to enter. Although Angel Island is calm, it is not peaceful. For 400 years, a group of people has been continuously attacking the Island of the Gods, and the Shendu of all ages have never let down their vigilance. Therefore, when the menacing Yunzhou ships approached rapidly on the White Sea, the alarm was sounded on Angel Island. Although the distance is too far to figure out the identity and purpose of the person coming, it is always right to make sufficient preparations first. The team responsible for guarding the coast immediately began to assemble. Notify God Gan Fall. Has the identity of the visitor been confirmed? Is it a Sandia? It doesn't seem to be. It's from another direction. In any case, be on your guard. The continuous fighting for 400 years has indeed greatly tempered the resilience and organizational skills of the army of Angel Island. Within a few minutes after discovering the boat on the sea, a team of hundreds of people had gathered on the coast. They are ready. Very close. Those ships on the sea are already very close. They have weapons. At this time, I was finally able to see clearly. It's the enemy. Enemy attack. Prepare to fight. Someone shouted. The gathered warriors clenched their weapons tightly. Their weapons are the same as those of Burka's warriors. They are all knives and guns made of various processing clouds or various shellfish that can be used in battle. Yeah ha ha ha, the reaction is really fast. Wanton laughter suddenly came from above. The warriors on Angel Island looked up in astonishment. At the top of a coconut tree on one side, a boy stood at this time. What? The warriors were all dazed, completely unaware of when this young man appeared. Who are you? Even though he was still a teenager, it didn't prevent the warriors from aiming their weapons at him. Enel didn't respond to this, he still sneered, who is your boss? Let him get out, the gods are here, it's time to kneel down and greet him. God. There is only one god in the realm of gods. That is God Gan Fall. The warriors on Angel Island just sneered when they heard Enel's words, and then sternly warned, boy. Tell us your background, otherwise, don't blame us for being rude. You're welcome. Enel tilted his head, why are you impolite? It's. The corner of his mouth was raised high, but the next moment his body appeared in the crowd, is that so? Brilliant golden light burst out from his body in an instant. Thunder and flame, the two forces mixed together produced a terrifying lethality. Everyone around tens of meters was affected, and the thunder fire caused a huge explosion, blowing everything around them away. What? The warriors of Angel Island couldn't understand what happened. Devil fruit, this thing is known to very few people in the sky. Yeah ha ha ha, this is the fate of blasphemy. Enel flashed into the sky again, discharge. Gold thunderbolts splashed from him one after another, falling down like rain one after another. The sound of explosions and screams complemented each other for a moment. Attack, knock him down. The warriors on Angel Island screamed. Is this teenager a monster? He can actually manipulate thunder. Fortunately, there are enough of them to launch a counterattack. All of a sudden, all kinds of special shells have been used. Flame shells, blast shells, slash shells, impact shells, and even laser shells. All kinds of completely different attacks blasted towards Enel at the same time. But pointless. All shellfish attacks, whether rare or common, were of no use to Enel. It just left a burst of lightning when it passed through his body. Monster. Monster. Some people couldn't help but screamed, he's a monster. The attack can't hurt him at all. What kind of opponent is this? At this time, from the side of the sky, a shining flaming spear fell instantly, smashing directly into the warriors. Then, the brilliant fire light engulfed everything around with the loud noise. The warriors who were not affected looked up in astonishment, and in the sky, a figure flapped its huge wings across the sky. In his hand, the second flame gun was condensing. The visitor shouted loudly, surrender, or destroy, choose. The warriors on Angel Island widened their eyes, because they saw a group of warriors flapping their wings in the sky behind the visitor, approaching rapidly. Their flaming wings almost cover the sky. It is not far from Li Tianxi Island, above the island made of mud and rocks. Dulin is flying forward slowly with two maids. Of course Dulin didn't care much, but Angie and Nica who were following behind him couldn't help looking down obsessively. Look at this island, look at this forest. There are so many trees. Is this real dirt? Amazing. All are never seen before in Burka. It would be nice to have a look below. God, where are we going? Rika couldn't help asking in a low voice. And Jaya immediately frowned and reprimanded, Rika, this is not something we should care about, we just need to follow God's back. There's no need to be so serious, and Jaya. Dulin smiled. He raised his hand and pointed forward, did you see that thing? That's our destination. The two maids looked up. In front, in the middle of the forest, there is a huge vine winding upwards. It's so high. Nica looked up, and the tip of the vine almost extended to the depths of the sky. Can such crops actually grow on the land? The ruins of Shandora are there, and so is the Golden Bell. It's very close. Baby baby. Suddenly there was a cry from the sky ahead. Horse. Dulin raised his eyebrows. I saw a shadow approaching rapidly from the direction of the vines in the distance. It was a pink horse with some Madara spots on its body. Ordinary horses, of course, can no longer run in the air. This horse has a pair of wings growing between its ribs. It's a Pegasus. On its back sat a heavily armored knight. The knight noticed the three of Dulin, and immediately turned his horse's head and flew over. The lance in his hand was already aimed at Dulin. Who are you? He asked loudly from a distance. Gan Fall. Dulin recognized his identity. The current god of the domain of gods. What a coincidence. Chapter 15. The Ruins of Shandora. Gan Fall. The unlucky guy who was taken away by Enel in the original work. The Pegasus, which was transformed from a big bird that ate the horse fruit, is his most obvious proof of identity. Did not expect to meet here. Could it be that he, like Enel, lives in this island of gods? But immediately, Dulin realized that Gonfuer was not the only one living in the island of the gods. In the dense forest below, one after another silhouettes are gliding quickly from a distance. Equipped with a special shongbai in the shoes, the Sky Island warrior can easily fly around Lin's house. Oh, in this case, Dulin will know. The purpose of stationing here is to guard against the sneak attack of the Sandia, right? This island of gods was originally a part of Gaia Island on the Qinghai Sea, but it was washed into the Baibai Sea by the soaring current 400 years ago. At that time, the god of Angel Island captured the island and drove out the Aborigines on the island, the great warrior Karl Gala and his fellow Gaia people. So Roland, the big talker, will never find El Dorado again, and never hear the sound of the golden bell again. The descendants of the Gaia people have never given up on taking back Gaia Island for 400 years. For this reason, they have launched a tug of war with the Sky Island people for 400 years. They are now known as Shandians. God. Seeing Gan Fall approaching quickly, Angie flapped her wings and stepped forward, asking softly. Although this was originally the work of Fram and the others, since we have encountered it, let's solve it by the way. Dulin said so. Gan Fall was burning with anxiety. Angel Island is under attack. Not even Shandians. When I was about to rush over, I encountered an unexpected situation on the road. We must hurry up, he thought. But how to have a child? How can they fly? Before Gan Fall could come up with a reason, in the sky not far away, the child flapping huge wings raised his hand. A ball of light appeared in his hand. What is that? The moment this idea just came into being. Laugh. Gan Fall only felt his eyes light up, and then something flew past his ears. Boom. A terrifying sound came from behind. Ganfer was even slapped directly on the horse's back by the strong shock wave, and the Pegasus under his crotch lost control instantly, circling and falling downward. While spinning in the air, Gan Fall saw a huge fireball hanging in the air behind him. Like the sun, it radiates its light and heat wantonly. That child. Gan Fall's eyes widened. He felt his heart constrict in an instant, as if being grabbed by something invisible. Some emotion overwhelmed him, so that he was not afraid of pain when he fell from the sky through the dense tree canopy and hit the ground. God Gan Fall. The surrounding warriors, that is, the divine soldier team that Ganfort belongs to, saw the fall of the god, and quickly surrounded him. Ganfort is in good physical condition, and even falling from the sky did not cause him any harm. This time it was his pupils that shrank as if they were the size of a needle tip. He looks up at the sky. Breathing has become extremely rapid. Suddenly, the dense canopy began to burn blazingly, and at the starting point of the burning, a certain behemoth poked its head out of it. It was a dragon, a divine dragon transformed from almost frozen flames. The horns of the head are tall and the minions are sharp, lifelike. Its huge and slender body moved between the canopies, and the dense canopy was directly turned into ashes before it even had time to burn. The sky is revealed and the sun shines brightly. But Ganfer and everyone in the Shanbing team felt as if they had fallen into an ice cellar, and their bodies were stiff. The slender body of the huge dragon coiled up, surrounding all of them. The huge and ferocious head looked down at them, as if it would fall down at any moment. Even the scorching super high temperature that almost ignited them could not warm the hearts of the magic soldiers at this time. Gonfor raised his head, and a figure slowly descended, standing on top of the flame dragon. He obviously looks like a young child, but his eyes are full of indifference. To be, or not to be. Gonfall heard him say, how do you choose? Well, how to choose? Or, how can I choose? Angel Island. Because of the enemy's invasion, this quiet and peaceful island has become completely chaotic. But on the battlefield at this time, the warriors of Angel Island gathered here are retreating steadily. Floating in the sky with huge flame wings, Fram waved his right hand downward. Beside him, the warriors of the Sun Knights who were also flying in the sky pressed their hands forward at the same time, and one after another fireballs flew out of their hands. Have air supremacy, and then bombard indiscriminately. From the very beginning, it was an absolute advantage. The brilliant gold fireball streaked across the sky like a meteor shower, and then fell under the desperate eyes of the Angel Islanders. Dense explosions almost covered the entire battlefield, and the flames engulfed everything, as if they were going to burn everything up. When the explosion stopped and the flames dissipated, there was only morning left on the battlefield. Frame raised his right hand, signaling his subordinates to temporarily stop attacking. He flapped his wings and moved forward, looking down at the people from Angel Island below. One last question, do you want to continue fighting? After a short silence, surrender. Finally someone shouted loudly, almost howling, "We surrender." Fram nodded slightly. After destroying all resistance forces, the next step is to occupy the island. Tret. Frame said, "Treat them, if they are dying." Yes. Tritter, who was appointed as the leader of the treatment team, immediately led his colleagues to start emergency treatment. Looking at the bleak battlefield, Frame felt a little guilty. After all, we all probably share the same ancestry at the end of the day. But there is no way, this is God's order. Crackling. A ray of lightning condensed around Fram into the appearance of Enel. "Have you figured it out?" asked Fram. Enel had a strange expression on his face. "They said that the false god is on the island of the gods." "What?" Fram was stunned for a moment, and then said anxiously, "Damn it, he is obviously the opponent we should deal with. Are we going to let him trouble God?" "Enel," he said in a deep voice, "you go there right away. I will lead people to control Angel Island first." At this time, Enel was not in the mood to argue with him, and disappeared instantly after a little nod. At this time, Dulin was already standing on top of a cloud. In front of him is a huge vine, piercing through the cloud from bottom to top, and then going all the way up. He can clearly see that there are several layers of clouds above. So high. Nica, who came here with Dulin, said in surprise. Let alone her, even Jaya, who was calmer, couldn't help but look up. "God Dulin, what are you doing here?" The other person here, the original Sky Island god Gan Fall, couldn't help asking. "There's nothing here. The reason why I say Yuan is, of course, because he has now abdicated to Xian. Otherwise, he would not be able to bring Dulin here alive now." "No, right down here, I hear you." Dulin stomped his feet lightly, and flames gushed out from under his feet in an instant, blasting a huge hole in the clouds. He fell down. There is another space among the clouds, and a golden relic has appeared in front of Dulin's eyes in an instant. The remains of Shandora. Chapter 16. The Golden Bell, the history text, the serpent. Dulin has never seen so much gold in 2 lifetimes. It can be said that looking at any corner of this ruins is shining with golden light. This is almost a city made of gold. It seems that every building is made of gold. Of course, the building is only plated with a layer of gold. But it is already proud enough. After all, the other gold decorations are real. It is indeed the Golden City in Legendary. Here it is. After Dulin entered the interior of the cloud, 2 maids followed in immediately, and then Gan Fall followed. The original god of Sky Island looked at the scene in front of him in astonishment. Is there such a place among the clouds? No one has ever discovered it in 400 years. This is also of course. Dulin was not surprised. 400 years ago, after Gaia Island was washed up into the sky by the soaring ocean current, it was pierced by huge vines and left in the Bye-Bye Sea. And the place where the vines run through is exactly the remains of Shandora. The entire ruins were brought up, then crashed into the clouds and hid. This collection is 400 years old. Until Enel found this place, and then took all the gold to make the ark. It's beautiful. Rika looked at the surrounding gold with some admiration. Then, gone. Is it expected that the people of Sky Island who basically have no contact with Qinghai know the value of gold? Dulin walked around the ruins with great interest. Then he was a little disappointed. The rush to the sky 400 years ago and the erosion of the years in the next 400 years have caused this ruin to almost collapse, leaving only the ruins of a place. The ones that are relatively well preserved are those buildings that are small in scale but relatively strong. But these buildings are basically just dwellings and have no value at all. What a pity. Dulin thought so. But it's not really a surprise. In the original, Robin came here and got nothing. Anyway, I have harvested as much gold as a small town. Gamfer watched Dulin wandering around the ruins, showing a somewhat disappointed expression from time to time. He suddenly had an intuition in his heart. This god Dulin, he must know the origin of this ruin, or the origin of this island of gods. Let's go. Dulin said, go to another place. God Dulin, where do you want to go? Ganfort is respectful. Although it looks like a young child, it possesses unrivaled power. If I offend him a little, it's not just me, I'm afraid the entire domain of gods will usher in a devastating end. Ganfort is not a flattering person, on the contrary, his character is full of chivalry, kind, but reserved. However, in front of the power of this god Dulin, all the reserve is just a joke. Above, Dulin pointed his finger upwards. Above. Ganfort was taken aback for a moment. Do you want to go to my residence? The place where he lives is built on the clouds above. No, it's higher up. Higher up. What is that place where else? But this was Dulin's decision, and he didn't dare to object. Soon, the 4 of them soared into the sky. Dulin and the 2 maids flapped their wings and flew up, while Ganfort followed closely behind on the back of his beloved horse. All the way up the huge vine, after throwing several layers of clouds under them, the 4 of them finally reached the top of the huge vine. It was an empty sky with only a few clouds floating around. What can be here? Ganfort thought so. He looked at Dulin. At this time, God Dulin seemed to be listening to something and concentrated his attention. Found it. Dulin suddenly smiled. He immediately took the lead and flew towards a cloud in the sky not far away. Naturally, the 2 maids followed immediately. Although Ganfort didn't know why, he hurriedly patted his A and followed. Flying above the cloud, a brilliant golden light appeared in Dulin's eyes. With a slight flap of his wings, he flew out like a lightning bolt, and the distance that was not so close instantly returned to 0. Dulin Fei came to the top of the cloud. so he could clearly see the huge golden clock on the clouds below. God, what is this? And Jia, who was following Dulin, looked at the golden clock in shock. How huge, how beautiful. It just exists here quietly, but it seems to be the embodiment of beauty. Shandora's lamp. Dulin fell slowly and landed on the base of this huge golden clock. In front of him was a huge stone set on a pedestal. The stone is engraved with various incomprehensible characters. Historical text. Shandora's lights. Gamfer, who was riding a flying horse and landed on the clouds, was also shocked when he heard Dulin's words. Never thought that there would be such a thing in the sky of the island of gods. My god, what is Shandora? Rika was curious. I don't know either. Dulin said casually. God, don't you know? Rika couldn't believe it. Dulin didn't answer, he just put his hands on the boulder in front of him. I can hear the surging sound from the stone. It seems to be constantly declaring that it contains great power. As for why the sound of the stone can be heard, it can only be said that it is just an insignificant listening to the sound of all things. The corner of Dulin's mouth hooked slightly. The promised golden bell. Well, let me ring now. His petite body jumped up lightly, jumping directly from the base to the front of the clock. Hands grasped the rim of the golden clock. Obviously compared to this huge golden clock, his body is as petite as an ant. But Dulin, who was like an ant, easily raised the huge golden clock. When the bell hammer collided with the clock body, the loud and melodious voice echoed instantly. When. Xingyu's chiming sound spread towards the empty sky. What a beautiful voice, Nica said in a daze. Just hearing this voice, it feels like my heart has been washed away. Really not bad. Dulin nodded slightly. From now on, it belongs to me. The bells died down, all of a sudden. Crackling. A golden thunder condensed on the clouds. God. Following the sound of the bell, Enel bent down respectfully. Angel Island has basically been calmed down, and that guy Fram is in charge of finishing it. Ganfort was taken aback. Sure enough, it was the invader brought by God Dulin. What's going on with this boy? How did he appear? Then go back. Dulin nodded slightly. Both of the most valuable places on the Isle of the Gods have been visited. Tour ends. Yes, several people returned the same way. It's just that when going down from the huge vine. Hiss, hiss. A gigantic creature was screaming and climbing up the vines. Ganfer immediately exclaimed, Lord of the Sky. Oh. Dulin raised his eyebrows. It was a blue boa constrictor. The body length may far exceed the scale of 100 meters. Chapter 17 Subdue the Lord of Space. The new god of the realm of the gods. Lord of the Sky. The giant snake that has been entrenched in the island of gods hundreds of years ago. Gonfer looked down at the huge monster below with a dignified expression. No one knows what it survives on the island of gods where there are basically no animals. We only know that it is the top predator on the island of gods, and even the gods of all ages cannot compete with it. The huge snake was going up along the huge vine at this time, hissing and screaming. Compared with the huge body, the two peas' eyes looked up at the sky, and what was revealed in it was full, eager. How the hell do I see longing in its eyes? Enel's mouth twitched. God. Enel also has a pair of wings growing on his back. Although they are also gold, they are not just pure flames, but wings made of thunder and fire. Should I fix it? He said excitedly. Dulin looked at the giant snake that kept climbing up the vines. It should have been summoned by the golden bell. This guy loves the chime of the golden bell, since the days of warrior Karl Gallas and Talker Roland 400 years ago. Dulin could even hear the big snake's excitement at this moment. It is looking forward with anticipation, wanting to listen to the voices it heard in childhood. The corners of Dulin's mouth curled up. No, I have other arrangements. Can fire be given only to humans? Not necessarily so. Dulin wants to experiment. He lowered his body in an instant, and appeared directly in front of the Lord of the Sky as his wings vibrated. Hiss. The big snake's body that was moving up quickly stopped in an instant, and was startled by the sudden appearance of Dulin. But at the next moment, the Lord of the Sky, who had ruled the island for 400 years, immediately revealed his fierce look, roaring and opening his mouth wide, trying to swallow Dulin in one gulp. If I remember correctly, this guy still has a lot of gold in his belly. But Dulin didn't want to swim in the belly of the big snake. The brows were slightly lowered, and the originally peaceful eyes instantly became sharp. An invisible spirit instantly penetrated the huge body of the Lord of the Sky. The mouth that had been opened to the limit could not be closed at all, and the slender and huge body began to tremble slightly. Visible to the naked eye, sweat oozes from its body and then gathers into a small river to flow down from its body. Do snakes in this world actually sweat? Get down. Dulin said calmly. The body of the Lord of the Sky, who was as stiff as a stone, shook like a sieve, and then slowly closed his bloody mouth, and his huge head slowly lay down in front of Dulin. There was a flattering expression on its already naive face, which was very humane. Rika let out a low cry of surprise. What happened? Why did you show your fierce face just now, but now you have become obedient? As expected of a god. And Jia was very excited. In her heart, it was only natural that God could do such a thing. Gan Fall also had a puzzled look on his face, so he couldn't figure out why the Lord of the Sky, who had been vicious on the island of gods for hundreds of years, would just bow his head like this. Only Enel was thoughtful, he seemed to have been defeated by this move before. It's not that difficult either. Dulin thought so. It's just that when I was bored while basking in the sun, I thought about it a little bit, and the practice of controlling the frantic conquerors was completed. It has been able to launch at any time at will, and it is also possible to accurately select the object of impact and control the intensity of the impact. Do you understand what is the gold content of extreme hockey talent? Dulin stretched out his right hand and pressed the big snake's forehead. Only then did he notice that the big snake's body was covered with a layer of fine feathers, and there were even long beards growing on both sides of its body. He said calmly, "From today on, you are my pet." The Lord of the Sky is very intelligent, it can understand what Dulin means. It didn't dare to resist at all. As a reward for you. Dulin smiled and said, "I will ring the golden bell for you regularly." Hiss. Lord of the Sky's peasy eyes lit up instantly, and his huge body began to writhe excitedly, hissing non-stop. Dulin knew it agreed, and the flames began to burn on his palm. Then, just accept this gift. The flame carrying the power of the soul instantly poured into the body of the Lord of the Sky. Hiss. The giant snake's body immediately began to shake violently. Its naive bean eyes are quickly dyed golden. Dulin breathed a sigh of relief slowly, and withdrew his right hand. Although he didn't give it the advanced fire seed, Dulin also gave the Lord of the Sky a lot of soul power. Gave it an exceptionally strong tinder. The effect is immediate. Hold head high. After Dulin let go of his hand, the Lord of the Sky immediately raised his head and roared. While it roared, fiery flames gushed from its mouth. This is. Gan Fall's eyes widened. Flame. The Lord of the Sky actually used flames. What is going on here? I don't understand it at all. Lord of the Sky is also a little unclear, but this does not affect his excitement to experience its new ability. Flames shot out from all over its huge body. Obviously it just got the fire seed, but the scale of the flames it used was even higher than that of Fram. This is not surprising. The power of the tinder also depends on the physical strength of the user, and the physical strength of the Lord of Sky is obviously much stronger than that of the warriors of Sky Island. Good. Dulin slightly applauded. Hiss hiss. The Lord of the Sky put away the flame docilely, lying in front of Dulin like a cute kitten. Dulin thought for a while. From today onwards, your name will be Quetzal. Hiss hiss. Lord of the Sky, the giant snake named Quetzal by Dulin nodded repeatedly. Go ahead. Dulin said. Go up to guard the golden bell, and get acquainted with your power by the way. Hiss hiss. Quetzal nodded, and immediately continued to climb up. Dulin looked at its back. Sure enough, this kind of intelligent creature can also bestow flames. So, those sea kings in the ocean. The corners of Dulin's mouth curled up. Speaking of which, how many years until Princess Shirahoshi was born? Let's go. Revolving heaven makes the island. The center of Angel Island. The busiest lovely street. All the residents of Angel Island were forcibly gathered here at this time. Everyone had a look of panic on their faces. Because on the roofs on both sides of the street, Burka warriors with live ammunition are lined up on it. After that, what will it be like? The residents of Angel Island are filled with fear. Frame stood on the roof, looking towards the direction of the Island of Gods. Then suddenly, the corner of his mouth curled up. Get ready, residents of Angel Island. Get ready for the presence of God. In the distant sky, several figures are approaching rapidly. Chapter 18 The Shandians. Kamui Flame Cannon. Dulin fluttered his wings and floated above the sky. Down below, the residents of Angel Island gathered on this long street looked up at him, all of them with expressions of fear on their faces. They hugged their loved ones tightly, looking up at Dulin as if they were looking up at some monster. They are afraid of the destruction that will come when they don't know. Starting today, this god Dulin will become the new ruler of the domain of gods. Beside Dulin, Gonfuer was riding on the back of Pegasus, shouting loudly, he will be the new god of Angel Island and God Island. Hail him, my countrymen. When he said these words, Gan Fall felt that his heart was bleeding. Suffering from the enemy's invasion, not only could he not fight back as a god, but he even asked his compatriots to give up their dignity to serve the enemy. What a shame. However, no matter how ashamed you feel, all you can do at this time is be patient. Resistance is absolutely impossible. All that rebellion can bring is destruction. Can only endure. Gan Fall didn't dare to lower his head to look at those painful faces, look at those pairs of despairing eyes. Dulin just watched all this calmly. The so-called war is such a thing. There will always be deaths, there will always be broken families. But there is no way, this is what I have to do. Starting today. Dulin said flatly, I will rule these two islands. God, God, God. Cheers rang out in an instant. But of course, the only ones who cheered excitedly were the Sun Knights and God's guards brought by Dulin from Burka. Dulin looks down at the inhabitants of Angel Island below. Although it is true that these two islands have been captured, it may take a long time to completely integrate the two islands. Unlike Burka, the process of capturing Burka did not experience any bloodshed. Although it was still coercion by force, it was still considered peaceful. But Angel Island, even if the Sun Knights with the healing flame started to treat the seriously injured and dying Angel Island warrior as soon as the war ended, some people died. Hatred will accumulate with fear. Gan Fall. Dulin spoke suddenly. Gan Fall, who was immersed in his emotions, froze for a moment, and then quickly responded, God, I am here. Come over. Dulin waved at him. The former god of the two islands was a little unclear, but he didn't dare to disobey. He quickly drove the Pegasus under his crotch to fly over, and bowed respectfully in front of Dulin. God, What instructions do you have? Starting today, the divine soldiers from Angel Island and God's Island will be reorganized into the God's Guard, led by Enel. Dulin said, you are responsible for assisting him. Enel on the side grinned, then leave it to me, God, I will lead this group of trash well, and make them something useful. Below, the soldiers who had put down their weapons and chose to surrender did not even dare to get angry after hearing his words. The war just now has completely shattered their courage. Yes, I understand. Gan Fall could only nod silently. Is there another answer now? Very good. Dulin nodded slightly in satisfaction, however, your current level is still far behind. He stretched out his right index finger, and flames flickered between them, don't refuse. Gan Fall watched the index finger pressing towards his forehead and his pupils gradually widened. He remembered what Dulin did to the Lord of the Sky just now. Could it be that the index finger was already on his forehead? Oh, Gan Fall snorted, his body trembled, and he fell on the back of Pegasus with his head up. The residents of Angel Island below were in an uproar. It is not enough for this god Dulin to seize the Angel Island and the Island of the Gods, but is it necessary to kill Gan Fewer? But immediately, Gan Fall straightened up again. From the gaps in the armor on his body, flames sputtered out. The residents of Angel Island don't know why. What happened to Gan Fall? God. Gan Fall was equally taken aback. Actually, let yourself have the power to control the flames. Feel the gift of the gods. Dulin's voice echoed in the sky like Hongzhong Dalu. Then, his body suddenly expanded, turning into a huge golden sphere floating in the sky. Immediately afterwards, a sky full of yellow flames gushed out from the sphere, and it overturned towards the residents of Angel Island below like a huge wave of extermination. Fear, scream, then hysteria. Everyone thought that the destruction came at this moment. However, when the yellow flame fell, everyone felt unprecedented warmth and tranquility. A very strange scene appeared. In the raging fire, the people surrounded by the flames showed strange expressions of enjoyment. It's amazing. Tritter, who was the captain of the Sun Knights medical team, was full of surprise. A healing fire of this scale is indeed a miracle that only gods can achieve. The flames gradually dissipated, and the people who came back to their senses were amazed. All of them have recovered from minor or serious injuries. What's even more strange is that the original fear and panic also dissipated. Of course, Dulin has always used the healing fire to heal the wounds of the soul, so why is it so difficult to heal the wounds in people's hearts? Residents of Angel Island looked up at the second sun wrapped in flames in the sky. God. Is he really a god? In addition to fear and hatred, another emotion is brewing. But at this delicate moment, a Sun Knight flapped his wings and quickly approached. God. Enemy attack. Someone at sea is heading towards the island of God. Enemy attack. Dulin was slightly startled. Is it such a coincidence? Could it be that today is an auspicious day? Everyone sees this day. It's a Sandia. Gan Fall hurriedly said, for 400 years, they have been trying to occupy the island of the gods. That's it. The golden sphere began to bloom, and its brilliant wings spread out. For the first time, the golden dragon showed its true face in front of the residents of Angel Island. Dulin flapped his wings and flew higher into the air. It can already be seen that on the surface of the White Sea in the distance, many small black dots are flying towards the direction of the Island of Gods. It's interesting. If you want to invade my territory, you should say hello to them first. The golden god opened his mouth. Kamui Flame Cannon. Chapter 19 Destruction Shooting. Submission of the Shandians. Shine. An extremely dazzling light bloomed in Dulin's mouth. He seemed to hold a sun in his mouth. The golden flame was extremely condensed and turned into a shining ball of light. The dazzling light even blinded everyone. Gan Fall's eyes widened. God Dulin, what do you want to do? In the next moment, the ball of light turned into a breath, and a blazing beam of light passed Gan Fewer's side in an instant. Gan Fall turned back in horror. The beam of light has fallen on the White Sea in the distance. Valen is galloping across the sea with his compatriots. Yes, speeding across the sea. They wear special shoes on their feet, and after loading Shangbei, they can fly across the sea of clouds like skating. Valen looks very tough. The left half of the hair has been completely shaved off, replaced by a hideous tattoo. He is a warrior from Shandia, the #1 warrior in the village, the leader of the gorillas. His chest was bare, and a strangely shaped broadsword was carried on his shoulder. This is a weapon made of Sky Island's special iron cloud, which not only has the hardness of steel, but also has the elegance and flexibility of a cloud. Coupled with the slash shell installed in the blade, this is definitely a powerful weapon. But it was such a man with a sturdy appearance and a sturdy weapon, but his eyes were full of tears at this time. It's almost there. He shouted loudly, his eyes fixed on the lush island in front of him, Jaya Island. Our hometown is coming soon. There is no mistake. That must have been the sound of the golden bell just now. Someone rang the lamp of Shandora. Someone rang the promised golden bell. Valen roared almost roaringly, compatriots, this time, even if it costs us our lives, no matter what, we will take back our hometown. Oh, there was a clamor of responses. Since they were sent to Beibaihai by the rushing sea current 400 years ago and were driven out of their hometown, they never gave up on taking back their hometown. The promised bell has been rung. The bell that the big warrior Karl Gala wants to convey to Roland no matter what is ringing. It's there. The promised golden bell, there it is. So, why not go all out to get it back? Already, close at hand. Laugh. Wei Lun suddenly felt his eyes light up. A ray of light savagely broke into his line of sight. Then, it landed on the distant sea. A more dazzling light bloomed. The huge fireball expanded in an instant. The dazzling light made Valen feel that he had lost his color, and the earth-shattering sound made Valen unable to hear any other sounds at all. After that, there was an oncoming wave of terror. Everyone was blown away. He couldn't stabilize his figure at all, and couldn't even resist for even a second. The bone-deep pain made Valen think he was about to be shattered. Out of the corner of his eye, he saw that all the compatriots were also blown into the sky. Thump. He fell into the white sea. The body sank. But fortunately, after a brief daze, Valen suddenly opened his eyes, and his body quickly moved upstream. The bottom of Beibaihi is a void. If you fall, you will fall to your death. As the chief warrior of the village, Valen has outstanding physical fitness, and he quickly rushed out of the sea. Then he froze for a moment. Valen nearly shuddered. A huge hole appeared in the sea in the distance. An abyss was blown out of Beibaihi. Fang Yuan thousands of meters. You can even see the sky below. The clouds are flowing that way. At this time, compatriots who also fell into the sea also emerged one by one. Luckily, Valen felt that they were still far away from the explosion, otherwise they would have lost all their bones. Stay away from here, he yelled. Back, back. If you go any further, you will fall down. Everyone jumped to the surface of the sea again to distance themselves from the abyss. It wasn't until a certain distance was drawn that Valen breathed a sigh of relief. What the hell happened? Is it a meteorite? It's a natural disaster. Veyron. At this time, a familiar voice came from the sky. Valen instantly clenched the weapon in his hand. Gan Fall. He growled, are you still trying to stop us? The two are already old acquaintances, and have fought countless times in their past lives. But this time, Gan Fall had a wry smile on his face that Valen couldn't understand. No, Valen, it's not me who wants to see you this time. Is that you, warriors of Shandia? A majestic and sacred voice sounded from above. Valen looked up in astonishment. Winds fell suddenly from above, and Gold's god was bathed in the sun's radiance, or else, he himself was radiating light. Looking down at the warriors below, Dulin said leisurely, the descendant of great warrior Karl Gala, the guardian of Shandora. Wei Lun was stunned. Not only him, but all the Sandia people were stunned. The agreement that has lasted for 400 years is really touching. Dulin sighed, the descendants of Karl Galas are still desperately trying to get back the Golden Bell, but Roland has already been despised by the world as a big talker and executed, and the descendants are also ridiculed. Who are you? Valen couldn't help asking loudly. My name is Dulin, I just conquered Angel Island and God Island, you should call me the existence of God. Dulin looked down at them. Now, I will give you two choices. Descendants of great warrior Karl Gala, you choose to offer your loyalty to me, and then I give you the power to return to your hometown. Or, if you want to be my enemy and be completely destroyed by me, the 400 years of agreement will just disappear. Surrender. You think we're. Valen, who was subconsciously angry, didn't have time to finish his sentence. The flames turned into rays and fell from the sky, blasting another big hole in the sea of clouds directly in front of him. Don't rush to say no. Putting back the flames that came out of his body, Dulin said flatly, at least leave room for yourself to repent. Think about it. When the word, rejection, blurts out, the wrath of God will no longer be diverted. Quote. Although Beibaihi is huge, following the direction you came from, it shouldn't be too difficult to find your secluded place. After all, I will conquer the entire Beibaihi next. Quote. Valen stiffened instantly. It's him. The attack just now was sent by him. That is the power that can completely destroy them with only a slight shift towards their side. Don't reject God's goodwill. Dulin smiled and said, unless you are ready to face the wrath of God, descendants of Karl Gala, what is your decision? Valen opened his mouth. He wanted to say something, but he didn't know what to say. The flame of unquenchable courage that would have filled his heart forever seemed to have been completely extinguished at this moment. Veyron. Gan Foer couldn't help persuading, God Dulin is a very kind God. Hasn't he already promised to let you return to your homeland? Do you want to completely disintegrate your 400-year wish? Right. The dream of 400 years must not stop here. Wei Lun raised his head. Dulin, God. Didn't you deceive us? Will you really let us return to our homeland? I will say yes if I am willing, and say no if I am not willing. You have no value in letting me deceive you. Dulin replied, the same goes for the so-called God's Island. There are countless such islands in Qinghai. I will open up that island and build it. It is a good thing that more people settle here. Valen could only feel his heart pounding. Has the long-cherished wish of the tribe for 400 years finally come true? Even if you have to live under others for this, it's better than everyone being destroyed, right? Wayland took a deep breath. He bent over. God, please accept our allegiance. Great. The corner of Dulin's mouth hooked slightly. Then as a reward, accept the power I bestow on you. Chapter 20 The Shandians come to vote. To Qinghai. Valen and his brethren departed. With the brand new power bestowed upon him by Dulin, and with great excitement, he embarked on his return journey with his compatriots. Brother Wylan, is God Dulin really trustworthy? After walking away, a Shandia warrior couldn't help asking, could it be a trap to lure us? Valen was silent for a moment, then turned around. His golden eyes were also a little dazed, but he immediately became firm again. You have all seen the power of God Dulin. Valen said, That is the power of God that we are absolutely unable to contend with. If we don't want to usher in the end of destruction, we can only choose this way. That brother Valen who is always full of courage is actually scared to this extent now. The warriors in Sandia couldn't help but feel a little sad. Submitting because of strength, can this be considered a warrior? But he also had to admit that there seemed to be only one choice now. After all, they are not alone, there is a village tribe behind them, and they have many clansmen. The warriors of Shandia who have seen Dulin's strength clearly know that the young god definitely has the power to easily conquer Sky Island. At that time, even if their village is well hidden, how can they hide in the face of God Dulin who has unified the entire Beibaihi and even Baihai? After all, their village also trades with other Sky Islands. And, finally, I can go back. Wei Lun looked excited. You can go back to Gaia Island. Go back to the place where our ancestors lived. Our hometown. Yes, I can finally go back. After feeling the humiliation, another emotion, like Vinalon, is an uncontrollable excitement. Yuzu, who has been away from home for 400 years, can finally return home. Go back and tell everyone the news. A group of people began to accelerate. Here, in the sky, Gan Fall looked at the backs of the warriors in Sandia, and said worriedly, God, is it okay to let them go back like this? This god is a bit elusive. He is obviously domineering and self-centered, but he is willing to let Wei Lun and others go back and bring all the clansmen back. Didn't Valen say that? He will bring the clansmen back. Dulin, who has returned to his human form, said calmly, I trust him. People who have been planted with fire will be affected by the power of their own souls. Although this kind of influence is limited, if they are not particularly hostile to themselves, the power of the soul will always make them biased towards themselves. Gan Fall nodded slightly. What an unpredictable god. But it is this time. Enel. Dulin suddenly shouted loudly. Crackle. The thunder gathered beside Dulin in an instant, and Enel appeared with a slight bow. Follow up. Don't be discovered by them. Dulin said so. Learn. Enel grinned. They don't want to escape my pursuit. Dulin nodded slightly. Enel has turned into lightning and disappeared into the sky. Gan Fall, who witnessed the whole process, was silent. Truly, an unpredictable god. Let's go. Go back. Dulin turned and flew towards Angel Island. Let's discuss the development plan of God's Island. For 400 years, the Island of the Gods has been the forbidden domain of the gods of Sky Island, and the residents of Angel Island have always been forbidden to enter. Not to mention building towns, even planting crops is not allowed. This Sky Island is the only island made of soil and rocks, and the only meaning of the Island of God is to be the garden of the gods of the Sky Island. Isn't this too wasteful? At least, it should also be developed into a farm. Dulin thought so. Cloud Shinobi Village. A sky island located not far from Angel Island is also an island made of island clouds. This is where the Sandia people gather. After being driven out of his hometown by the god of Sky Island 400 years ago, the great warrior Karl Gala led his people to wander here, and used this as a base to continuously attack the Island of God. Today is something special for the people of Shandia gathered here. The bell rang. Suddenly the bells that existed only in the legendary of word of mouth were ringing. Could that be the golden bell that the ancestors have always wanted to get back? Could it be the promised golden bell that the great warrior Karl Gala would desperately want to ring? With excitement and anticipation, the warriors immediately attacked. The people who stayed on the island were also excitedly looking forward to it. But soon, the warriors came back. Valen, the strongest warrior in the clan, called everyone together, and then told everyone a news that made everyone unbelievable. The realm of the gods has been occupied by god Dulin from Burka, and the golden bell was also struck by him. He has the power to destroy the world and destroy an island with ease. We were discovered by him, but he didn't destroy us, but said he wanted us to join him. God Dulin will open the island of God next, and he promised me that if we surrender to him, he will allow us to return to our homeland. I agree. Valen's words immediately caused violent reactions from all the tribesmen. Varone, are you serious? Surrender to the new Sky Island god. You must have been tricked. Yeah, how could they allow us to return to our hometown? Also, it is impossible for us to share our homeland with others. It is our homeland. The crowd was raging. However, a gray-haired old man in the crowd walked out of the crowd. Children, is Valen true? He asked the other warriors. The warriors were a little silent. Then they nodded in unison. Brother Wei Lun is right. God Dulin has the ability to transform into a golden bird, and with just one breath, he can blast an abyss thousands of meters into the White Sea. Quote. Everyone was silent. God Dulin will rule the entire Beibaihi and Baihai sooner or later. By that time, we may have no place to hide. Wei Lun sighed. The old man, the chief of Cloud Shinobi village, was silent for a while, and then he suddenly smiled. It seems to be not bad. At least, we can go and see the place where our ancestors lived. Wei Lun finally breathed a sigh of relief. We're going right away. We're going to our hometown right away. Shortly thereafter, the edge of the island of the gods. Dulin flapped his wings and floated in the sky. On the sea ahead, there are people with perturbed faces on the Yunzhou. God Dulin. Valen stood at the front of the front ship, and beside him was an old man. I brought all the people here. In the future, we will follow suit for you. The white-haired old man knelt down slowly towards Dulin. Valen immediately followed suit. The Shandians bowed and bowed at the same time. God Dulin. All shouted. Still quite shocking. Dulin nodded slightly. Go, return to your hometown. Yes, everyone's faces were ecstatic. In this case, the matter in the realm of the gods is almost done. Next, go to Qinghai. Dulin thought so. Chapter 20 The Shandians come to vote. To Qinghai. Valen and his brethren departed. With the brand new power bestowed upon him by Dulin, and with great excitement, he embarked on his return journey with his compatriots. Brother Wylan, that, is God Dulin really trustworthy? After walking away, a Shandia warrior couldn't help asking, could it be a trap to lure us? Valen was silent for a moment, then turned around. His golden eyes were also a little dazed, but he immediately became firm again. You have all seen the power of God Dulin. Valen said, that is the power of God that we are absolutely unable to contend with. If we don't want to usher in the end of destruction, we can only choose this way. That brother Valen who is always full of courage is actually scared to this extent now. The warriors in Sandia couldn't help but feel a little sad. Submitting because of strength, can this be considered a warrior? But he also had to admit that there seemed to be only one choice now. After all, they are not alone, there is a village tribe behind them, and they have many clansmen. The warriors of Shandia who have seen Dulin's strength clearly know that the young god definitely has the power to easily conquer Sky Island. At that time, even if their village is well hidden, how can they hide in the face of God Dulin who has unified the entire Beibaihi and even Baihai? After all, their village also trades with other Sky Islands. And, finally, I can go back. Wei Lun looked excited. You can go back to Gaia Island. Go back to the place where our ancestors lived. Our hometown. Yes, I can finally go back. After feeling the humiliation, another emotion, like Vinalon, is an uncontrollable excitement. Yuzu, who has been away from home for 400 years, can finally return home. Go back and tell everyone the news. A group of people began to accelerate. Here, in the sky, Gan 4 looked at the backs of the warriors in Sandia, and said worriedly, God, is it okay to let them go back like this? This god is a bit elusive. He is obviously domineering and self-centered, but he is willing to let Wei Lun and others go back and bring all the clansmen back. Didn't Valen say that? He will bring the clansmen back. Dulin, who has returned to his human form, said calmly, I trust him. People who have been planted with fire will be affected by the power of their own souls. Although this kind of influence is limited, if they are not particularly hostile to themselves, the power of the soul will always make them biased towards themselves. Gan Fall nodded slightly. What an unpredictable god. But it is this time. Enel. Dulin suddenly shouted loudly. Crackle. The thunder gathered beside Dulin in an instant, and Enel appeared with a slight bow. Follow up. Don't be discovered by them. Dulin said so. Learn. Enel grinned. They don't want to escape my pursuit. Dulin nodded slightly. Enel has turned into lightning and disappeared into the sky. Gan Fall, who witnessed the whole process, was silent. Truly, an unpredictable god. Let's go. Go back. Dulin turned and flew towards Angel Island. Let's discuss the development plan of God's Island. For 400 years, the Island of the Gods has been the forbidden domain of the gods of Sky Island, and the residents of Angel Island have always been forbidden to enter. Not to mention building towns, even planting crops is not allowed. This Sky Island is the only island made of soil and rocks, and the only meaning of the Island of God is to be the garden of the gods of the Sky Island. Isn't this too wasteful? At least, it should also be developed into a farm. Dulin thought so. Cloud Shinobi Village. A sky island located not far from Angel Island is also an island made of island clouds. This is where the Sandia people gather. After being driven out of his hometown by the god of Sky Island 400 years ago, the great warrior Karl Gala led his people to wander here, and used this as a base to continuously attack the Island of God. Today is something special for the people of Shandia gathered here. The bell rang. Suddenly the bells that existed only in the legendary of word of mouth were ringing. Could that be the golden bell that the ancestors have always wanted to get back? Could it be the promised golden bell that the great warrior Karl Gala would desperately want to ring? With excitement and anticipation, the warriors immediately attacked. The people who stayed on the island were also excitedly looking forward to it. But soon, the warriors came back. Valen, the strongest warrior in the clan, called everyone together, and then told everyone a news that made everyone unbelievable. The realm of the gods has been occupied by god Dulin from Burka, and the golden bell was also struck by him. He has the power to destroy the world and destroy an island with ease. We were discovered by him, but he didn't destroy us, but said he wanted us to join him. God Dulin will open the Island of God next, and he promised me that if we surrender to him, he will allow us to return to our homeland. I agree. Valen's words immediately caused violent reactions from all the tribesmen. Varone, are you serious? Surrender to the new Sky Island god. You must have been tricked. Yeah, how could they allow us to return to our hometown? Also, it is impossible for us to share our homeland with others. It is our homeland. The crowd was raging. However, a gray-haired old man in the crowd walked out of the crowd. Children, is Valen true? He asked the other warriors. The warriors were a little silent. Then they nodded in unison. Brother Wei Lun is right. God Dulin has the ability to transform into a golden bird, and with just one breath, he can blast an abyss thousands of meters into the White Sea. Quote. Everyone was silent. God Dulin will rule the entire Beibaihi and Baihai sooner or later. By that time, we may have no place to hide. Wei Lun sighed. The old man, the chief of Cloud Shinobi Village, was silent for a while, and then he suddenly smiled. It seems to be not bad. At least, we can go and see the place where our ancestors lived. Wei Lun finally breathed a sigh of relief. We're going right away. We're going to our hometown right away. Shortly thereafter, the edge of the island of the gods. Dulin flapped his wings and floated in the sky. On the sea ahead, there are people with perturbed faces on the Yunzhou. God Dulin. Valen stood at the front of the front ship, and beside him was an old man. I brought all the people here. In the future, we will follow suit for you. The white-haired old man knelt down slowly towards Dulin. Valen immediately followed suit. The Shandians bowed at the same time. God Dulin. All shouted. Still quite shocking. Dulin nodded slightly. Go, return to your hometown. Yes, everyone's faces were ecstatic. In this case, the matter in the realm of the gods is almost done. Next, go to Qinghai. Dulin thought so. Chapter 21 Qinghai, Gaia Island. The island of the gods welcomes the return of Yuzu. The residents of Shandia finally returned to their hometown. The immature children followed their parents, and it was difficult for them to understand why their parents burst into tears. I don't even understand why Uncle Ant's grandparents would cry and kneel on the ground and kiss this land. They are still too young to understand what 400 years means, and they don't know how much blood their ancestors paid in order to return to their homeland. But fortunately, they no longer need to understand this matter. In the center of the island of gods, the top of a huge vine that penetrates the entire island and winds upwards, above a certain cloud. Dulin stood on the edge of the cloud, looking down at the island below. Even if it is far away, you can clearly hear the laughter from the island below. Hiss hiss. The huge snake circled its body docilely, with its head lying on Dulin's side, grinning unhappily towards the forest below. Quetzal has already used the top of the huge vine as a nest, and when he is free, he likes to hang on the top of the vine and stare at the golden clock on the distant clouds. For Quetzal, who has always regarded this island as his territory, the sudden arrival of so many people from the island of God today made him feel very unhappy. Dulin squinted at it and chuckled. For you, the 400 years are just the past of youth, right? But for them, it is the succession of more than 20 generations. Quetzal didn't understand very well, he just tilted his head and stuck out his tongue at Dulin. Dulin smiled. Time is really a helpless thing. Can I escape from the erosion of the years? God. Fram came flapping his wings of flames, landed respectfully behind Dulin, and knelt down on one knee. The construction of the temple has been arranged. Burka and all the craftsmen of God's island will be dispatched to help you in the huge at the top of the vines build a most noble temple. Dulin nodded slightly. How did the residents of Angel Island react to the opening of the island of the gods? Overall it's ecstatic. Fram said. The island of the gods is also an irresistible temptation for them. Coordinate both the Angel Islanders and the Sandiers. Dulin said flatly. Let Gonfor and Valen control their clansmen well, the hatred of 400 years will not be dissipated so easily. Follow the oracle. Fram lowered his head. I will not give them this chance. Any sinner who dares to make trouble in your domain of God, I will burn them to ashes with the flame you bestow. Dulin smiled slightly. Then I will trouble you, Fram. Don't dare. Fram buried his head even lower. This is what I should do. Well, the things here are temporarily left to you. Dulin said. I'm going to Qinghai next. Qinghai. Fram was startled, and immediately said respectfully, I understand, I will protect the piece of the rear for you. The corner of Dulin's mouth hooked slightly. Very nice, Fram. If there is any remaining in the future, I can give you an advanced fire seed. And you. Dulin lifted his foot and lightly kicked Quetzal's chin. Be proficient in your ability to manipulate flames, at least you must learn how to turn flames into wings to fly, so that you can carry me out. Hiss hiss. Quetzal raised his head, his huge head was nodding like a puppy. So, Dulin turned his head and looked at the sea of clouds beyond the island of gods. Going down from the island of the gods, after passing through the Baibai Sea and the Baihai Sea, on the Qinghai Sea below, there is the remaining half of Gaia Island. It is the closest Qinghai Island to Sky Island. When Dulin was preparing to leave. My God, please allow my presumption. At this moment, Fram suddenly said, it is your will that you want to go to Qinghai, and no one can disobey it, but I dare to suggest, please let Enel go with you. Dulin thought for a while, then nodded slightly, Enel. God. Lei Guang condensed behind Dulin, Enel bowed deeply, I'm ready. Then let's go. Dulin flapped his wings, and his body shot out like lightning. God will leave it to you. Fram still didn't look up. You don't need to talk nonsense. Enel snorted coldly, his body had turned into lightning and disappeared. Dulin quickly flew out of the island of gods. The abyss that was blown out by his breath before has completely healed at this time, and White's ocean is rippling in the wind, and it doesn't look like it was before. Crackling. Lightning condensed around Dulin, and Enel's wings of light spread out behind him, looking around in a daze. God, how do we go to Qinghai? That's all. Dulin closed his wings, and his body had already fallen down abruptly. God. Enel was shocked. What is God thinking? Baihai's Haiyan is able to restrain ability users. He quickly lowered his body and chased after him. In any case, he could only follow closely behind God. Baihai was already in front of him. Dulin pressed down casually, and the flame surged out, turning into a long dragon, directly piercing through the sea of clouds below. Following the hollow created by the flames, Dulin and Enel fell rapidly. The fiery fire dragon directly vaporized the Hai-Yun that was close to it, opening a straight passage downward. After about a few hundred meters, Bai came to an end, and the two continued to fall. Below is also a sea of white. That is the White Sea. It is 3 kilometers away from Bai. Is that the White Sea? Enel was a little excited. This was the first time in his life that he left Bai. Before he had time to think about it, Bai was already in front of him again. God, leave it to me this time. Enel grinned, and thunderfire surged out of itself, turning into a giant sphere and enveloping both of them. The sphere fell into the White Sea, splashing white waves all over the sky. Then, speed up. Enel gave a low snort. The flames at the top of the sphere surged, pushing the ball of flames into the White Sea. After another few hundred meters of diving, when it reappeared in the sky, the bottom was already a piece of blue. Then, Qinghai, Enel stared down blankly. That the exhibition is boundless, endless, is Qinghai. How magnificent, how beautiful. In comparison, Bai is really petty. Come on, Enel, the goal is there. Dulin flapped his wings, and the momentum of his descent suddenly stopped, and he had already shot out. Enel immediately turned into lightning to follow. On the sea not far below, an island quietly exists here. Chapter 22 Magic Valley Town, Familiar Strangers. Gaia Island is located in the first half of the Grand Line, one of the routes in the sea known as Paradise, and belongs to the islands in the Middle Sea. This island is not very large, and there are no islands in the nearby sea. And once all the weird record pointers come here, they will point straight to the sky uniformly. So basically there are very few serious ships coming here. People who come to this island are usually to escape the pirates that Marine hunts down. This is where pirates gather. Dulin led Enel and Luffy directly to the top of the island. The island looks odd when viewed from above. Enel, what do you think this island looks like? Like what? Enel narrowed his eyes and carefully observed the island below. He looked at it carefully for a while, but he didn't see anything strange. So Enel said honestly, I don't see it, God. After you go back, you can look at the shape of the island of the gods, and you will be able to know the two pieces together. Dulin said flatly, let's go, there is a town on the island, let's go there. Yes. While responding, Enel kept this incident in his heart, and he wanted to see what God meant. Dulin flapped his wings and moved forward, and there was a small town on the other side of the island. At the end of the town, there is a port. There are many sea ships parked in the port, but without exception, all sea ships have flags with skulls on their masts. Those are pirate ships. The name of the town is Magic Valley Town, which belongs to the town established by pirates. When the two of Dulin came in the air, the pirates in the town also noticed them. No way, Dulin and the two don't have any cover, as long as they are not blind, they can be seen by raising their heads. What is that? Are they flying? Wings on the back? What's the situation? The pirates were all without exception, and everyone's face was full of astonishment. Flying is a very rare thing in this world. To be able to soar freely in the skies is the power of the few among the few. Why did two come here in one breath today? Dulin Fei landed on the tallest tower in the middle of the town and landed on the top of the tower. He surveyed the town. Unlike the houses in Sky Island, which were built by the island clouds, the houses in Magic Valley are of course made of wood or rock. Looks amazing in style. Hey, brat, who are you? At this time, a pirate who couldn't hold back his curiosity raised his head and shouted at Dulin, what is demon fruit power? Dulin didn't even look at him, he just said calmly, how many years has Sea Circle calendar been this year, what great event happened recently? Can anyone answer me? First, you have to figure out the timeline. There was a brief silence. Then, ha 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 ha. Wanton laughter came from all directions immediately. The pirates who came to see the excitement burst into laughter almost at the same time. Ha 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 ha. Kid, are you asking us? Go back and ask your mother. Yes, throw into your mother's arms and ask her while drinking milk. One thing that must be admitted is that Qinghai people are often full of courage. There are pirates who dare to offer a bounty of 1 billion with a wine bottle on their heads, pirates who dare to kill Admiral with a sniper, and brave men who dare to go to the tea party of the 4 emperors and to make trouble. No matter who the enemy is, there will never be a shortage of reckless men who dare to shoot 2 swords among the people of Qinghai. Dulin didn't speak. Looking for death. How dare you insult my god? A golden thunder flashed across the sky in an instant, and Enel's face, which had not yet ushered in development, was already covered with frost. You all have to die. Dragon of thunder and fire. The thunder and flames were released with all their strength, turning into a huge dragon of thunder and fire and crashing down. Under the shocking eyes of all the pirates, the long dragon crashed into the group of pirates, and immediately began to circle, sweeping towards the surrounding pirates at a jaw-dropping speed. Wow! The screams continued almost instantly. Thunder and flames splashed everywhere, turning the area around the tower into purgatory almost in the blink of an eye. Enel gasped. Because of his anger, he didn't hold back anything, and went all out to release his ability without sparing any physical strength. Under the anger, Enel suddenly felt dizzy. The heart was pounding, as if something was about to break out of the cocoon. Dulin standing on the tower raised his eyebrows slightly. Felt it. The abnormal movement of the fire in Enel's body. Oh, is it possible? The corner of Dulin's mouth hooked slightly. The dragon of flame and thunder dissipated slowly. The center of the town is already a mess. The flames were spreading everywhere, and the surrounding area had already become ruins. The corpses of the pirates were strewn all over the place, most of them had become charred black, and they couldn't recognize their original appearance at all. People in this world are indeed rough-skinned and thick-skinned, with tenacious vitality. But in the face of Enel's merciless lightning strike, few survived. God, it's all done. Enel said with some pride. Dulin nodded slightly. It's just that no one here can answer your question. Enel said regretfully. No, someone else can answer. Dulin tilted his head calmly, and looked towards a certain corner of the town. When will you see anything else? Enel turned his head away in some surprise. Then he saw a figure standing on top of a residential building in the distance. Guhahaha, that's really interesting. Accompanied by deep laughter, the man's body slowly dissipated. Then, yellow sand poured in from a distance, and finally condensed into a silhouette on the roof of a burning building. The visitor looked at Dulin and Enel with great interest. I thought it was a boring landing, but I didn't expect to meet interesting people. Oh, Dulin raised his eyebrows. It turned out to be an acquaintance. Chapter 23 Graham Lockdoll. Enel wakes up. The visitor looked quite young, about 20 years old. The face is not handsome, but there is a lazy but fierce temperament. Black's hair was combed back, a cigar was in his mouth, and his eyes were half closed. A fur coat was draped over his shoulders, and there was a lazy smile on the corner of his mouth. Of course Dulin would not fail to recognize him. But I really didn't expect to meet him here. Guhahaha. The visitor looked at Dulin, or at Enel next to Dulin, and asked with great interest, are you also a Logia-capable person? God, this guy. Enel also noticed the way the man moved. He seems to have similar abilities to me. Dulin nodded slightly. He looked at the person coming. Crocodile, I didn't expect to meet you here. Come on, the future Shichibukai, the second eldest father of the clown buggy, one of the future 4 emperors. Lockdoll frowned slightly. Little devil, do you know me? He is not some famous big pirate. It has only been more than a year since he went to sea, and the bounty offered is only more than 40 million. How could such an inexplicable brat know himself? Aren't pirates of this level of bounty grand line everywhere? God knows everything, Dulin said casually. Has Lockdoll not entered the new world yet? After all, his right hand is still intact. That is to say, haven't challenged Whitebeard yet, probably haven't played Douglas Bullet yet, and haven't become first-generation Shichibukai yet. God, the corner of Locke's mouth twitched. This kid really dares to say it. He even calls himself a god. However, even though he didn't look more than 10 years old, he exuded a creepy sense of danger. Then, Lockdoll. Dulin asked lightly, can you answer my question? How old is the Sea Circle calendar this year? What is the biggest thing that happened recently? Did this kid live in an isolated place before? The thoughtful Lockdoll thought in his heart, but a sneer came out of his mouth. I don't seem to need to answer you, do I? Bold. How dare you reject God's decree? Enel immediately started to jump with lightning. Do you want to die too? Oh, Crocodile glanced at Enel, and said indifferently, the hound started howling before the master even opened his mouth. God. Enel looked at Dulin with pleading eyes. Although he didn't know what a hound was, it didn't prevent him from hearing the sarcasm in Crocodile's tone. Enel has always been a rebellious and arrogant person, how could he allow someone to insult him and still remain indifferent? Then go play with him. Dulin said, but pay attention to your physical strength. Yes. Enel smiled excitedly, and his body disappeared in an instant. When he reappeared, he was already directly in front of Crocodile, and Enel held Gold's thunder spear in his hand, and directly penetrated Crocodile's body. Lockdoll just glanced at him. What is this idiot brat thinking? Also Logia, how could this attack work on itself? Sha Lan. With a flick of his hand, the tornado formed by the sand directly tore Enel's body into lightning. Crocodile looked at Enel, whose body was condensed again from the thunder, and said a little arrogantly, give up, kid, even though we are all Logia's ability users, we cannot rely on our ability to decide the winner. But you don't think we are equal except for our ability. Among other things, the advantage in physical strength is already too great. Yeah ha ha ha, is that right? Lousy doesn't believe it. Enel's anger surged, and suddenly flashed into the sky, and the thunder that filled the sky was already falling towards Lockdoll. Lockdoll just sneered and didn't even bother to hide. Logia, but an invincible ability. And, he turned his head and looked at Dulin on the tower. I'm very curious, what happened to the kid with the white wings who can make this Logia ability user who has mastered the thunder surrender? Desert Sword. With a wave of his right hand, the sand turned into a wind blade, attacking Dulin in an instant. Dulin just watched calmly. Then, bear. The flames that surged from nowhere smashed the sand blade into pieces in an instant. Surrounded by the flames, the robes on Dulin's body were flying. Sure enough, I don't know how to hockey. Dulin is right to think so. After all, he hasn't even entered the new world yet, so maybe he doesn't even know what hockey is. Lockdoll was very strong when he was young, and he once had a peak match with Douglas Bullet. At that time, his strength was many times stronger than that of him in the Alabasta chapter. But now, the current Crocodile is far from the strength of that time. Even so, it shouldn't be too long before his duel with Bullet. Lockdoll's pupils shrank. Another Logia. UB******************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************* was instantly furious. How dare you attack God? You damn thing. The furious Enel began to release thunder and flames desperately, wanting to let this blasphemous be ********** D die without a place to die. Then, this time, it's when Enel almost empties himself. Click. He seemed to hear a soft noise. It comes from the heart. Enel's eyes widened. He felt it. A brand new power appeared in his body. The corners of Dulin's mouth hooked up completely. I'm coming. Seeds sprouted. Chapter 24 Enel's Black Thunder. Judgment. It is different from the common fire that can only give flames. Infused with more and more advanced soul power of Dulin, the advanced spark can stimulate the potential of the carrier, and then evolve into a form that adapts to the carrier. In other words, the advanced spark will eventually evolve into a unique form belonging to the carrier depending on the actual situation of the carrier. This process will take some time, but not too long. And now under the intensification of anger, the seed hidden in Enel's body, now finally germinated. The thunder leaping from Enel changed form almost in the blink of an eye. The color of gold is rapidly turning black. Wrong. It's not pitch black, it's black and white. It looks full of chaos, but it only makes people feel sacred. The original mixed form of thunder and flame also completely changed at this time. It is obviously jumping and flashing like thunder, but it has a texture like water. At the same time, on the back of Enel's right hand, a Roman numeral, I, is emerging. This is. Enel raised his hands in astonishment, and the strange black and white thunder wrapped around his hands. Good job, Enel. Dulin applauded. It's only now that the power of Tinder has finally merged with you. Finally, the flame and the thunder are no longer a mere mixture, but a real integration, and endow the thunder with new power. Yes, God. Enel's expression has gradually become high. I have already felt this new power. What happened to that kid? Crocodile just felt a little inexplicable. Why did Lei Ting suddenly change his appearance? What the hell is going on here? Then experiment, Enel. Dulin encouraged, try your new power. He is also very curious about what kind of power Enel will awaken. Yes, please wait and see. Enel grinned excitedly, and he couldn't wait. Only Crocodile frowned. How come there is an ominous premonition? Enel took a deep breath, almost instinctively, some kind of wonderful power had been mobilized instantly. In the next moment, his eyes suddenly widened. The black and white thunder on Enel's body suddenly subsided, and his eyes became dazed. But Crocodile felt an indescribable sense of tension at this time, as if what appeared in front of him was not a little ghost head, but some terrifying monster. Suddenly, there was a smile on Enel's face that made Crocodile feel a little creepy. Every angle of muscle pulling is just right, but it is precisely because it is too perfect that it gives people a strong sense of inhumanity. You are guilty, Enel said quietly. Blasphemy is an unforgivable crime. I sentence you to death. The young man raised his right hand high, then clenched it suddenly. Black and white thunder jumped on his fist. Suddenly thunder roared in the empty sky. Then, Enel lowered his right fist, thunder of judgment. Thunder rumbled above the clear sky, and then, a bucket-thick, black thunderbolt pierced the sky and crashed down. Crocodile was inexplicably terrified. He is obviously an invincible Logia, so this kind of attack is meaningless to him. But why? The inexplicable panic in my heart. Crocodile subconsciously wanted to dodge and shot forward. But, the thunder light deflected suddenly, and directly bombarded Crocodile when he was caught off guard. Wow, it's been a long time since Crocodile experienced pain. So at this time, when the whole body was screaming, and countless pain signals were transmitted to the brain, Crocodile couldn't help screaming. His body was directly split into gravel all over the sky. Call. Enel's body trembled, his eyes recovered, and he exited the special state just now. He gasped heavily, but there was an uncontrollable smile on his face. What is that? A gloomy voice sounded. The sand and gravel all over the sky regrouped, and the figure of Crocodile reappeared in front of Enel. It's just that at this time, he has become quite embarrassed. The corner of the mouth is the blood that can't stop flowing out. His body was covered with scorched marks, and his neatly combed hair became disheveled. Why can your ability hurt me? Crocodile nearly gritted his teeth. What exactly is going on? It is also Logia's ability. Why is this kid's thunder special than his own sand? Enel snorted unhappily. Are you still alive? Disgusting vitality. You ask me why I can hurt you. He grinned. Didn't you already say it? It's the thunder of judgment. Judgment. Crocodile sneered. What are you kidding? No one can judge me. Then I will judge you again. Enel wants to activate the ability again. But, cut. He suddenly snorted again. It's the same with this. Black and white thunder burst into the air. The power of judgment. Dulin raised his right hand, and a wisp of almost imperceptible flame floated in, and then sank into his fingertips. Well, Dulin frowned slightly. Immediately, he opened the panel. Trial. Enel's power awakened from anger and powerlessness. Incarnation of the judge, anchoring the sinner. The attack has a judgment effect, giving the sinner extra damage depending on the level of the crime. Can take the initiative to execute a punishment on the sinner, launch an attack, and increase the attack depending on the crime level of the sinner. This attack cannot be avoided and must be hit medium. The same criminal can only be executed once for the same crime. Close black lens bracket. Unable to dodge, guaranteed to hit. This means, lock attack, right. Even Logia's elementalization couldn't be avoided. But it seems to be able to resist. However, it is also very remarkable. After all, attack power can also be increased. The corners of Dulin's mouth have been raised. Enel, you have beautiful flowers. You can take back the tinder at any time, but it didn't say that you must take back all the tinder, right? But this is not the final fruit. It has only just bloomed, and it can go further. Dulin looked up contentedly. Enel is fighting with Crocodile. Crocodile was beaten very embarrassingly. He suddenly found he couldn't ignore Enel's thunder. Obviously, he will be blasted into sand, but he will always suffer inexplicable injuries. Yeah ha ha ha. Enel laughed triumphantly. You're finished. Crocodile cannot ignore his attacks, but he can ignore Crocodile's attacks. Brat. Crocodile felt extremely aggrieved. Okay, let's stop here. Chapter 25 Big Event. Dulin's purpose. Just when Crocodile was extremely aggrieved, Du, who had been standing on a tall tower not far away, suddenly spoke. Is God. Enel was a little reconciled, but still nodded honestly, and instantly turned into an electric light to distance himself from Crocodile. After all, this is God's command. What do you mean? Crocodile didn't mean to be happy, instead he felt insulted, and almost gritted his teeth and looked at Dulin. Dulin flapped his wings and flew up, looking down at Crocodile. As a reward for letting you go, answer my previous question. Enel couldn't help laughing. God is really unforgiving. I don't know if he really wants to stop fighting. Let me go. The veins on Locke's forehead suddenly popped up. Do you think lousy is? The last word stuck in Locke's throat and he couldn't get it out. A finger was placed on his forehead. The pupils had shrunk to the limit, and Crocodile had no idea how this brat appeared in front of him in an instant. Only Enel noticed that the flame halo behind Dulin's head disappeared for a moment. Don't be too quick to spout nonsense, Crocodile. Dulin said calmly, when you haven't recognized yourself and the enemy, it will only make me think you are stupid. Crocodile's body staggered backwards, and blood was streaming down his forehead. A small hole was poked out of his forehead by Dulin's fingertips. This guy, what is going on? Crocodile at this time has understood. Why did that Thunderboy be so convinced by this younger brat? What the hell is going on with this kid? What is this strength? Could it be that he is a monster who just looks young? And, he can hurt himself too. The elemental ability has no effect on his fingers, he was even able to pierce his forehead directly just now. Dulin couldn't help but sigh in his heart when he looked at Crocodile with an uncertain expression. Lao Shaw's strength is really weird enough. At this time, Crocodile is undoubtedly very weak. No hockey, judging from the fight with Enel just now, the physical skills are just like that. Just rely on the ability of sand fruit. That's right, after all, the bounty was only more than 80 million until he became Shichibukai. It should be after entering the new world that his strength began to improve by leaps and bounds. Can you answer my question now? Dulin asked calmly. Crocodile's complexion kept changing, and he felt humiliated. The palm has instinctively turned into gravel. But after a violent ups and downs in his chest, Crocodile finally calmed down. Blindly following your emotions is not bravery. It's November 1495 on the Sea Circle calendar. Crocodile said coldly, the biggest event that happened recently was of course the naval battle of 8 Wall that happened about half a year ago. Gold Roger defeated the large fleet of flying pirates commanded by Golden Lion Shiki. It became the real significance the man closest to the great secret treasure. Dulin nodded slightly. It was the end of 1495, not yet 1496. Roger hasn't met Kazuki Oden yet, Kaido has gone to Wanokuni. It was really early. Very well, then you will repay the first kindness. Dulin smiled and said, and then the second time. He raised his right hand, showing his fingers to Crocodile. Crocodile gritted his teeth. This brat really spared himself just now. Take me to the strongest pirates on the island. Dulin said. Pirates. Crocodile frowned. What does this kid want to do? Lousy doesn't care. Crocodile sneered. There are quite a few pirates gathered on this island, but if you want to say the strongest thing, besides Lousy, there are just 3 fellows whose captains offer a bounty of more than 50 million. Great. Dulin clapped his hands and smiled, then quickly take us there, Crocodile. Delian is a very tall giant, over 5 meters tall. He's the captain of the Delian pirates that makes a name for himself. Wielding a huge battle axe, known as Delian the Executioner, he has been at sea for more than 10 years, and Marine offered him a reward of 56.3 million. Even in this pirate-studded island of Gaia, the reward is second to none. It has been a while since I sailed from the Magic Valley town of Gaia Island as a base. After replenishing supplies again, Delian is ready to sail again. He didn't want to go to New World, he just wanted to change his base and continue to plunder. The supplies have been replenished, the ship has been prepared, and the crew is ready to go. Standing on the deck, Delian looked at his subordinates who also looked excited. He yelled, "Little ones, set sail. Please wait for a moment." The conversation was interrupted halfway through. A voice that seemed plain amidst childishness sounded. Delian looked up in surprise. A young boy flapping his wings appeared in midair at some point. "Little devil, are you?" Delian spoke subconsciously in anger. But unfortunately, this time he also couldn't finish his words. Dulin smiled slightly, and the pirates on the deck instantly rolled their eyes and passed out, foaming at the mouth. The only exception is Delian. He didn't lose consciousness immediately. But his tall body couldn't help but began to tremble, and finally sat down on the ground. Delian stared blankly at the boy who landed with flapping wings. He stretched out his hand towards himself, wrapped in flames. "Surrender, or die, how would you choose? Surrender, or die, how will you choose?" Outside a certain tavern in Magic Valley Town, a huge flame dragon hovered in the sky, and the scorching temperature almost set the town on fire. Dulin flapped his wings and floated under the flame dragon, looking down at the two stunned men below, and smiled. The two men swallowed with difficulty, then turned their heads almost at the same time to look at Delian, who looked like he was about to die, and everyone died together. D brought him here. But they looked up at the sky again, and the flame dragon lowered its body. Well, there is only one answer.